Morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning. What's up, us? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What's up? Not much. How's it going, guys? I'm actually on time today. I woke up. I actually woke up. Amazing, right? Very, very close to not waking up just now. I'm so tired. This couple of days is like kind of annoying, to be honest. Kept feeling like I want to just like stay in bed and not move around too much. Um, Maybe it's like hibernation mode or something. It's the end of the year anyway. I'm like a bear. I need to hibernate, yo. Guys, I'm so fucking annoyed with certain things that I don't know why I say it out, but no. Excuse me, guys. So, to recap the last episode of Afternoon of the Gosling by Marlys Huffman. Well, Cerise, being a creepy kid, got really angry with the birth of her younger sister Kathleen. Kathleen, and Kathleen like is like probably like a year old or something, a year plus old. That can't really speak that much yet, and but she can run around like all toddlers do, annoying toddlers do. So during a Sunday picnic organized for the church of her father's church to appease the board members, um, uh, they organize it by some lake or pond, um, and Cerise, being Cerise, just doesn't want, like, even when her mother is asking her to take care of her sister, she just doesn't want to. So at some point she ran away, um, to, by herself to the lake, to feed the ducks with some bread. By the way, you should never feed ducks with bread. It's not good for them. Just so you know. uh, while she was feeding the duck.
Sit for me, please.
Hi. I know it's you. I know that one viewer is you. Well, as I was saying, thank you for subbing for 8 months, tier 2 as well. You're the only one who are on tier 2. A super simp. Amazing. Um, anyway, so what happened when she was feeding the ducks with bread? She heard her little sister Kathleen running towards her, like, "Hey, sissy," like she just like being cute and all, but she fucking hates her, right? So she went to hide, and then the sister, younger sister Kathleen, was very amused by the ducklings and ducks and everything. So she was like walking towards the ducks in the fucking lake. And the lake is pretty muddy as well, so it's basically a quicksand for water. So it just sunk you in, trap you in the water. So instead of like taking her sister out of the water, or like bring her sister out and go away, she kind of prayed to God for Kathleen to go away, quote unquote, go away. And what she did was she ran away, but before she ran away, she did a very quick and solid push on Kathleen so that Kathleen fell into the mud and water. And of course, obviously, a child being a child, they don't know how to save themselves. Cerise just ran away for some racing things, and she won ice cream, and she was enjoying her ice cream while thinking that, God has taken care of Kathleen for me. Everyone will now get angry at Kathleen instead of, like, um, uh, loving Kathleen, like, just because she's like so jealous that everyone's saying, like, oh, Kathleen's so cute, Kathleen is the most beautiful thing, Kathleen is like an angel. She's hated it so much that she's like constantly praying for God to take her away, and in the end God didn't take her away, she did. So she pushed her into the mud, and basically Kathleen drowned, and her mother got super depressed. Her father was like in shock, basically, because her father is a minister, and praying is all he knows what to do in situations like this, so he's fucking useless, basically. um so yeah. And then Cerise's mother, Wilma, kept saying that there's something wrong with Cerise, because Cerise doesn't cry or weep or mourn for the death of her younger sister. And then Phil, the husband, just kept saying that, oh, she just know how to accept it better than all of us. Like, it's kind of like weird, basically. Anyway, my coffee tastes really good today because I made it. Ha ha ha. Tell you, anyone who gets a coffee made by my bare hands, I mean, not bare. I use a grinder machine, so I didn't really punch the beans into powder. Um, anyone gets a coffee made by me, well, know what a good cup of coffee meant. Oh shit. Well, enough chitter chatter, blah blah blah. Just recapping, basically. We are going to Shelly's Corner, Cozy Library Lounge. I have a library too in our basement. Maybe I should do that. I don't know. I don't know about opening up our house for strangers to come in. Especially when I don't really care. Like, I don't really like sit. I mean, I'll be AFKing in my house, but I'll be like just AFKing in there and not not really say anything to them. Not greeting anyone. When my manager is here, Deanne, he she would help me. Uh, she would help me like sit around here, and then she would help me greet everyone and tell them where to watch my thing. I should make a macro for that, but I'm so lazy. As I always am. I am just a lazy bum. Okay, guys. No, without further ado, we are going to. Oh yeah, by the way, at some point when I'm reading this shit, I'm gonna get a phone call that I need to answer. It's quite an important phone call, so I will have to pick up the phone call and stop reading for a while. Okay. So now let's start. We are now continuing Afternoon of the Gosling, chapter 5. Wilma yanked the straight pin out of the ham and bit her lower lip. The wispy chiffon had to be adjusted again. She had lost her touch at handling materials. It had been so long. She hadn't done any sewing since Kathleen. Well, since Kathleen. Oh, just give me a moment, please. Sorry. I'm not thinking well. She pushed the thought back into her recesses of her mind. Don't about Cerie's costume. Thinking about Kathleen often made tears well up in her eyes, and she knew Cerise would ask questions. Questions she wasn't going to answer. She was sick of Cerie's eye-rolling, disgusted expressions. Sick of her "God took her" comment. God didn't take Kathleen. The church women killed her. Church people! She was sick of them too. Sick of Cerise and Phil both with their God's wills explanations. They might think she was dumb, but she wasn't dumb enough to believe God took Kathleen. The pin twisted, piercing her finger with a sharp thrust of pain that made her jerk and emit a loud "Ow!" She jammed her finger into her mouth to keep the blood from staining Cerie's costume. An angel had to be immaculate. "Stand still, Cerise," Wilma snapped. "I am, but you're taking so long." "This material is not easy to work with," Wilma grumbled. "But the program is this Friday night. It's only 2 days away." "I'll have it done by then. Now turn." Wilma sat back on her heels and eyed the hemline while Cerise slowly turned in a circle. "Is it okay this time?" Wilma sucked on her throbbing finger and nodded. "It looks a little odd with sneakers, but it'll be okay with your white sandals." Cerise revolved, this time in a quick spin that sent the fabric swirling around her ankles. "Don't do that!" Wilma spat out the words in sharp annoyance. "You make the pins fall out." "Miss Ryan said I should wear makeup for the program." Cerise had caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror and was tilting her head from side to side. Her shoulders wiggled, and she raised her arm to let the full sleeve fall into a wing-like cascade of white chiffon. "You're only 10, Cerise. That's far too young to wear makeup." "She said that I'm too fair. No one can tell if I have eyes or a mouth if she doesn't put makeup on me." Cerise dropped her arms and twirled one long blonde pigtail around the end of her finger. "She picked me for the angel because of my hair. Mother, we are going to take the braids out and let it hang. She said that it will look more like an angel." She stopped abruptly and turned her head to look down at Wilma. "I'm not 10, Mother. I'm 10.5. "I know how old you are." Wilma leaned back and looked up at her shoulder. The snug fit of the bodice over the emerging breasts predicted a rapid end to Cerie's childhood. Wilma looked at Cerie's half-closed eyes as the girl preened before the mirror. Was Cerise ever a real little girl? Wilma had never been able to cuddle Cerise like she had with Kathleen. She chewed her lip at the thought and stared at Cerie's eyes. They were greener than ever, like chunks of malachite. The expression was so cold, as if the girl was weighing and judging her own appearance with some plan in mind. These weren't the eyes of a 10-year-old child. "Mommy, can we try to make up?" Cerise tilted her chin and tossed her braids back over her shoulders. "I mean, we can see what I'll look like. You have lots of makeup." Wilma's breath made a slight rushing sound as it escaped. Why was she worrying about Cerise? Wanting to try on makeup was natural for a 10-year-old. "Please, Mother?" Wilma uncoiled her legs and rose. "All right, but I'll put it on you and you have to wash your face after you see what it looks like." Cerise trailed behind her into the bedroom. She made wide sweeping circles with her arms to send the chiffon swirling and drifting about her. "Are you going to come to the program, Mother?" Wilma reached for the eyebrow pencil and frowned before answering. She hadn't been in the church since the picnic. She had not wanted to see any of the women. After the first few weeks of bringing cakes and peace offerings to the house, the women left her alone. Now, when they wanted to see Phil, they went to the back door, directly to his office. Cerise was watching her hesitation. Wilma rolled the eyebrow pencil back and forth between her fingers. She felt the insistence in Cerise's voice. "Please, Mother. I've never been picked for anything before." Yes, Cerise. I'll be at the program. She nodded with a tired smile and reached for Cerise's chin. Now, hold still while I see what I can do. She stroked the pencil lightly across the colorless eyebrows, then reached for the mascara and brushed the tips of Cerise's pale lashes into dark fringes. The transformation made Wilma catch her breath. Colorless Cerise would be stunning when she was old enough to use makeup. The thought made Wilma hesitate. Was this a mistake? Cerise was too intelligent. One look in the mirror and it was going to be a fight to keep the girl out of her makeup. Cerise would badger her every day or beg Phil. There was too much begging to Phil lately and too many times when it worked. Cerise, you understand that this is only for the program, don't you? The gemstone eyes looked back at her, cool and glistening from under the newly defined lashes. Wilma straightened her shoulders and tried to reach every bit of her own height. Only 10.5, and Cerise was almost looking at her directly in the eye. The gap between them was narrowing fast. Cerise swung her head towards the mirror and a smile flitted around the corners of her mouth. Mommy, I'm beautiful. She leaned forward and eyed herself intently in the mirror. I have a face like other people. Eyebrows. I have eyebrows. She fluttered her eyelashes up and down at her own reflection. Billy Carter said that Billy Carter can't say that I look like a lizard anymore. I don't want to hear about Billy Carter, Wilma said. Ever since the Carters moved in, you pay too much attention to what Billy Carter says. He's 13, and a 13-year-old boy says really dumb thing, especially to younger girls. She reached out and touched Cerise's shoulder, only to withdraw her hands quickly when she felt the sudden tensing of muscles in Cerise's back. He's right, Cerise answered. Lizards don't have eyelashes. I do look like a lizard. You're a nice-looking girl. When you're old enough, you can wear makeup. By then, you won't care what Billy Carter says. More of your mother talk. Who says I care now? I just want to show him how stupid he is. She wiggled her eyebrows at her own image and lowered her eyelashes again. For a brief second, the glance was cold and speculating. Then, the lashes lifted and the eyes sparkled with excitement. Remember? It's only for the program, Wilma repeated. Cerise gave no indication that she was listening. She only leaned forward and re-examined her reflection in the dresser mirror. Let's go show Daddy Phil. She turned around with her chiffon sleeve flowing and grabbed Wilma's wrist. She's in the office, Wilma protested. She might not want to be bothered if he's busy. Cerise tugged harder. The strength of the girl's hand amazed Wilma. There was no escaping that grip. The fingers felt as if they were pressing through Wilma's flesh and mashing the veins against her bones. He's not busy, Mother. Matt's with him. He never lets Matt stay in the office when he's busy. They were moving across the living room. Wilma felt snatched up by a whirling wind as Cerise swept ahead through the dining room and the hall. Swirling clouds of the white chiffon, Cerise's grasp was relentless. Look, Daddy Phil, look! Cerise started bubbling as soon as her hand swung the door open. Look at my angel costume and my eyebrows! She dropped Wilma's hands, darted to Phil's side. She stood over his chair and leaned forward to put her face close to his. Her eyelashes flickered for attention. I'm going to be an angel in the Christmas program, and I'm going to have eyebrows like you do. Wilma rubbed her at her wrist and caught her breath. The look in Cerise's eyes, it was more than excitement. Wilma shivered and hated herself for the thought. It was a stupid idea. She was too young, she thought. She couldn't know how much it looked like if she was flirting. Anyhow, Phil was, almost her father. She couldn't be flirting with him. She put up her hand and rubbed at her throat while she watched. Matt took one glance at Cerise, shrugged, and turned back to her to drawing pictures on the back of a discarded calendar. None of Cerise's enthusiasm touched his world. Phil, however, was different. Wilma saw him raise his head and watched him inhale a long, slow, soundless whistle. Cerise straightened, put her hands on her waist, and drew her shoulder back. The forming breast bulged at the soft fabric and at the tight bodice, showing the erect nipples through the cloth. Cerise is doing it deliberately, Wilma thought. Better take a few dots out of the dress and let the material hang loose. She would have to fix that problem before the program. The makeup is only for the stage effect, Phil. Wilma heard herself speaking and wondered why was she explaining it to Phil. He had not objected. Phil continued to stare at Cerise with a furrow between his eyes. The corners of his mouth softened. Cerise raised her arms, letting the sleeve of the costume unfold ever so dramatically, while she poised and closed her eyes. The chiffon clung and pushed against her small breast. A gentle smile hang on. One moment, please. Oh, sorry. A gentle smile crossed Phil's face. His eyes were intent, following Cerise's every movement. Wilma. Wilma saw his eyes begin to shine, and his smile spread into a grin. Phil. Wilma stopped. Phil wasn't even aware she was in the room. He was staring at Cerise as if she were a genuine angel. It was the look he directed towards the ceiling during one of his evangelical meetings, a worshipping intensity that made women get out of their chair and flock to the altar. A shiver ran down the length of her spine. She felt out of place, as if she didn't belong in the room. Cerise! Her voice sounded scratchy, and she drew a deep breath before starting again, this time speaking slowly. Cerise, you have to take the costume off so that I can finish hemming it. The words had the right effect. The eerie tenseness in the air broke, and Phil's expression returned to normal. The words, your mother's right. Can't have you getting your angel costume dirty before the program. Wilma gave a small sigh. The smile on Phil's face was now only a fatherly smile. Take it off carefully so that you won't lose any pins. And put the dress down on my bed, she said. I'll start hemming this afternoon. Cerise twirled her arms once more and turned to Phil. Mother's coming to the program. Phil lifted his head and Wilma met the question in his eyes with a nod. I'm glad. Phil's voice was as tender as the expression in his eyes. She smiled gratefully at him for not making an issue of her non-attendance at church and was rewarded with an answering smile. She dropped her face away from his glance and wondered why she no longer felt any warmth inside her towards Phil. She ran her tongue across her lips, feeling the tense dryness creep into her mouth, but Phil's attention had swung back to Cerise. Even your grandmother Thea is planning on coming to see you be an angel. She's coming? Cerise's voice held a sharp edge. Wilma looked up quickly, but the girl's face was stoic mask. Phil nodded. And to see you. Cerise shrugged. She won't like it. Phil's laugh was explosively loud in the small office. Matt stopped his drawing and scratched at his head before turning back to the paper. Probably not, Phil admitted, but she is coming to see you, and it's a step in the right direction. Cerise flipped her braids back and forth. Can we take the pigtails out and see what I look like? She turned, with a bland sweetness in her expression. No, Wilma answered. If you want the costume finished by Friday, you have to get it off so that I can start hemming it. It's miles around the skirt. Cerise pushed her lower lip out and scowled. And after you take the dress off, wash your face, Wilma added. Cerise dropped her mouth open and looked at Wilma with the wide, mascara-defined eyes. She swiveled towards Phil and put her hands together under her chin. Please, Daddy Phil, can't I keep my eyebrows? At least until I can show Billy that I don't look like a lizard. Please? Cerise! Oh, Wilma, let her. Phil laughed. It's not really obvious. You managed to make it look natural. Oh, thank you, Daddy Phil. Cerise babbled and bounced forward, clinging to Phil and rubbing her cheek against his. When she broke free and darted past Wilma, there was a quick flash of the green glistening in her eyes. She gathered up the white skirt of the gown in both hands and swept out of the room. Wilma watched her disappear and frowned when she turned to Phil. I don't think you should encourage her. She's too young to wear makeup. Phil leaned back in his chair and fingered a pencil thoughtfully. I suppose, he answered, but a lot of girls her age are far worse. You have to admit Cerise feels self-conscious about her not having eyebrows. But she's not even 11 yet. Wilma shook her head. She was feeling an unreasonable sense of things going wrong. Cerise had maneuvered around her, gotten Phil's approval without even a discussion. I'm not saying... Okay, one moment please. you for the follow. Um, sorry, I was very, 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 very distracted by IRL stuff. I'm so sorry. Thank you for the follow, Jean Galahan. I'm not sure where you found me, but thank you so much. Um, if you don't know what this is going on, this is a book reading event that I keep pausing because I have a lot of IRL stuff to work on. I should have. I really should have postponed this, but yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Um. Yeah. Um. Okay. Sorry. I'm like super distracted. I'm so sorry. Um. Where did I stop? Okay. Okay. But she's not even 11. Wilma shook her head. She was feeling an unreasonable sense of things going wrong. Cerise had maneuvered around her, gotten Phil's approval without even a discussion. I'm not saying Cerise should start wearing lipstick and a lot of other stuff, Phil murmured. But what's wrong about letting her feel human and having eyebrows? He let the pencil fall to the desktop and looked up at her, his eyes white and brown. His eyes white and brown. Wilma turned away. The memories of Kathleen began to surge into her mind. Damn Phil's eyes. She still could not look at him when he was appealing to her, not without thinking of Kathleen. Wouldn't it ever go away? Nice to meet you, Isabel Tyra. Nice to meet you. Please go on to my Twitch channel to listen to the book. Thank you so much for being here. Wilma, can't you see? It isn't about makeup for Cerise. It's the chance to look like other people. I never knew that it bothered her. Wilma choked. I thought it was only the Carter boys teasing. It could be he's not the only one who teases her. Maybe, Wilma replied in a dull voice, but she pays too much attention to the things Billy says. She turned back towards him. Phil, I think she's growing up too fast. I'm scared that she'll be like me. She's too mature for her age. You're worrying too much, Wilma. After all, Cerise has been raised in the church and you weren't. What does that have to do with it? You sound as if church going cures a need for sex. She's nodded as she took in a deep breath. It never slowed you down, Annie. Phil leaned forward and put her elbows on the desk. For a long time he sat rubbing both hands across his curls and staring at the papers on the desk before him. The only sound in the room was the paper crackling under the pressure of Matt's crayon. Wilma leaned against the wall and waited, wondering if he was going to find some magical prayer to make everything's alright, as if prayer was going to stop the glint in Cerise's eyes. You're right, Wilma. Phil raised his head and gazed at the wall above her. She nodded, straightened in his chair. Have you talked to her about it? Sex, I mean? Wilma shook her head. Every time I try to talk to Cerise, she acts as if I don't know anything. She only says she will ask Daddy Phil. Phil leaned one hand and sighed. I guess she's my Gosling. It's up to me to talk to her. I wish you would. She's hanging around the Carter boy too much. He's not a problem, Wilma. I'm sure he thinks she's a pest. He chuckled quietly. All the time my mother had hopes for Ginny, I was convinced she was a first-class annoyance. Girls next doors are usually pests. What about a year from now? He won't think she's a pest and we'll be grandparents. She slumped, feeling suddenly tired, and reached for a straight back chair to sag into. Oh, I know I'm overreacting, but I'm scared. I know how girls get flattered whenever an older boy looks at them, especially the first boy. Let me show you something. He spread the papers across his desk. I want you to look at this, and then you will see why we won't have to worry about Billy Carter a year from now. What are they? Plans. Plans I have had for a long time and didn't want to talk about until there was a possibility of them coming true. A dream of mine. To have a gospel center, a chapel, an auditorium, even a school. Now it looks like as if it's really going to happen. She stared at the drawings, but they were only lines that meant nothing to her. Lines drawn on the paper. What does it have to do with Cerise? We'll be moving after the first of the year. Moving? She felt her mouth fall open and knew she was gaping like an idiot, but the words weren't making any sense. Moving? Where? We are safe enough to buy a house near Eugene, a home of our own. Eugene? Wilma, you sound... Thank you for the follow, Isabel Taira. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for whoever is in my chat right now. Thank you. I'm not paying attention much to the chat because I'm not focusing on the reading. And occasionally getting distracted by people on my phone. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Eugene? Wilma, you sound like a parrot. Eugene, Oregon. It's in the center of the state. He waved one hand as if to dismiss the explanation. Ted's found a backer who's willing to help us. A retired lumberman who heard me speak in Roseburg. She started to repeat the word backer and snapped her mouth shut before it came out. After a minute, she said, I don't understand any of this, Phil. He gave a slow breath outward and tapped the drawings in with his index finger. We are going to move to Eugene. This man owns a lot of property in the area, including an old unused dance hall. We are going to start by holding regular gospel meetings in the building. Then, the backer will match every dollar we take in, and the Thayer Gospel Center will be built. He has even promised to donate the land. She shook her head again. But what does this have to do with Cerise? We'll be away from here, Wilma. We'll be away from the pleasant home and Eddie Carter and the bad memories of this house has for you. She walked back to the chair, sank in onto the solidness of the wood, and tried to absorb the words he had been pouring at her. There'll be other boys, Phil. There'll be boys in Eugene too. It doesn't solve the problem. But I'll be home more. I won't be traveling all over the state. I can have more time to talk to Cerise and watch her. He stopped and leaned back in his chair, rubbing his hands together. That angel costume, Wilma. Think how great Cerise would look opening the meetings in that costume, lighting the candles while the organ plays. Just having her up there on the stage. His face began to glow with enthusiasm. What a theatrical touch, and I'll be able to keep track of her every night. Also, I realized that we have hit 130 followers. Thank you so much for the follow. Seriously, guys. Seriously, thank you so much. Okay, let's continue. Phil, she has to go to school. You can't keep her up every night, not her age. She shook her head again. I don't like her getting so much attention so young. She's too headstrong now. He gave a short laugh. Oh, don't worry. I'm getting carried away with my own dreams again. Then he grinned and added a mischievous gleam in his eye. Well, how about Friday nights? She rose, feeling drained and lifeless. I still want you to talk to Cerise. All right, honey? I will. But the plans are to be out of here by March 1st. I think we can keep the Carter situation under control until then. So soon? She looked at him, bewildered by the impact of sudden changes he was proposing. Phil, how long have you been thinking about this move? This gospel center idea? He, she, he looked up at her with a fiery intensity in his eyes. His fingers was gently stroking the ink outlined on the paper in front of him, up the roof line and across the outline of the cross. Since I started high school, I suppose. The whole concept, I mean. But the Eugene plans, well, Ted's been trying to find the site and the backer for months. His eyes drifted to the window and his voice was subdued, almost as if he was talking to himself. If Ted can find a few more backers, we can start building before another year is out. The chapels first, then the auditorium. He smiled and turned back to the papers on the desk, smoothing them out with the palm of his hand. He started rolling the papers with a carefulness he had never seen before, lovingly, as if the papers were sacred to him. Phil. She waited until he glanced up at her before continuing. It sounds good. I think I'll like Eugene. His hands continued to work the papers into a tight roll. He slipped a rubber band over the hand, working it meticulously towards the center of the roll. You love the city. The Blaylocks, he's the backer that I mentioned, are anxious to meet the whole family. The house we are buying is close to the Gospel Center site and the community college. When Cerise is old enough, she won't even have to go away to school. Community college? Wilma's eyes flew open. They have adult courses, don't they? I mean, anyone can go there, can't they? I suppose, but why is it important? I want to take some courses. I could take those classes that can help you get a high school diploma. She felt a sudden eagerness and started planning things in her mind. Typing courses, business courses. She could learn to do things, pack. They would have to pack everything. She could get rid of some of the old furnitures. It meant they could leave the church donated stuff behind. The frayed, lumpy Davenport would be gone. When are we going to move? The words came tumbling out. How close are we going to be to the college? I want to get started as soon as we move. Phil dropped the papers into the center drawer of his desk and shoved it closed with a violent slam. Wilma, there's no reason for you to take any classes. You know everything you need to for running the house. Oh, Phil, it's not to run the house. She straightened her shoulders and took a deep breath. It's for me. So I don't feel so dumb around other women. There's no reason for you to feel dumb. It's all in your mind. I even feel dumb around Cerise. She bit at her thumbnail, wondering how to make Phil understand. She couldn't find the right words to explain how she felt, the uncertainty every time she opened her mouth. Your mother, Phil, she's smart. She knows when I use the wrong words. Sometimes she gets a look on her face as if I had pinched her. Phil, don't you see? I don't want to be such a dummy. I want... Wilma, stop it. You're babbling. His hand struck the top of the desk, startling Matt into dropping his crayon and looking up from his sketching. My mother may be educated, Wilma, but she doesn't know half as much about being a woman as you do. He swung himself out of the chair and hit the desktop again. He leaned forward and glared fiercely into her eyes. All my life, I've heard her brag about how educated she was, how she had been a school teacher. His voice dragged out the word teacher with a venomous twist of his mouth. She kept saying she was so much better than the other farm wives, and do you know what a lousy wife she was? My father died while she was out with another woman. So don't tell me how education is going to improve you. You are all women, and I like the way you are. You know everything I want you to know. He braced himself against the desk. His breathing became heavy and rasping, and the cramped space of the office made it sound even louder. Wilma felt as if someone had been removing her spine bone by bone. Any minute now she would sink into the floor like a jellyfish. The words stuck at her tonsils. Her mouth opened and closed soundlessly until the tears came to the surface of her eyes and began to swim over the edge and ran down her cheeks. Don't do that, Daddy! Matt stood with his feet braced, He clenched his small face and glared out at Phil. Don't make mommy cry! Phil's chin sank. He dropped back into his desk chair and held his head in both hands. I'm sorry. He didn't meet her eyes but kept repeating, I'm sorry, honey, over and over. She glanced down at the floor, sniffled, trying to stop the deluge of tears. Phil's voice broke the silence. We'll talk about it later. I have the time to think. His head came up and he looked into her wide brown eyes. Okay? She nodded, knowing her vocal cords wouldn't work, and felt Matt's small sturdy arms clutch her legs. Here, mommy, you can have my picture. He held out the flopping sheet of paper and waited for her to take it. The tears were still trickling down her cheeks, but she forced the edges of her mouth upward and reached for Matt's offered gift. That's Daddy in the church. Matt poked one finger at the largest of the figures in the drawing. And that's you and that sister in her angel dress. It's nice, Matt. She rubbed at the tears with the back of her hand. But where are you? There. Matt poked his chubby finger at the green-colored blob at the lower corner of the drawing. You? Why are you green? 'Cause I'm a frog. A frog? Mm-hmm. Cerise got mad at me and turned me into a frog. In spite of tears, Wilma felt a giggle erupt in her throat and she shook her head. Matt, you have been listening to too many fairy tales. She bent and kissed him on the forehead, brushing a lock of her hair back and stroking it into place. I like it. And I love you for giving it to me. She said softly. Matt threw his arms around her neck with a fierce hug. Will you love me if Cerise turned me into a frog? Wilma couldn't hold a laugh back. Yes, I will, but don't worry. Cerise can't turn you into a frog, and if she could, I wouldn't let her do it. Matt squeezed her about the neck and darted back to his papers. He settled back on the floor with a thud, picked up his crayon and gave Phil a long, silent appraisal before returning to his drawing. Phil slumped in his chair, his eyes turned to meet Wilma's, silently appealing to her. She folded Matt's drawing between her fingers before she turned away and started out of the room. She had to hem the dress, think about the dress, give Phil time to change his mind. And if he doesn't change his mind, one way or the other, she was going to learn. Phil wasn't going to stop her. He couldn't stop her, even if she had to sneak off during the day and take the courses, and she was going to learn. She walked into the bedroom, stared down at the yards of the chiffon spread across the deep royal blue spread, and lifted her chin. Okay, if he wanted an angel to light the candles, he would get his angel. But if Phil thought a few more prayers were going to be the answer to Cerise, he was dumber than she ever was. The girl had been deliberately trying to attract his attention, and not as a daughter. She picked up the fabric and tossed it back onto the bed. Better dry the tears first. It wouldn't do to have tears on an angel costume. She dabbed at her eyes, wiped her nose, and flopped down at the edge of the bed. An angel lighting the candles? It was hardly going to be enough to keep Cerise in line, no matter what Phil thought. Wilma reached for the needle and thread and looked down at the white chiffon. He'd be lucky if his precious angel didn't burn down the church while she was flirting with some boy. The chiffon slid to the floor. Cerise stepped carefully over the filmy material and lifted the costume gingerly. It didn't look as if she had lost a single pin. Her hands stroked at the fabric and smoothed the dress out across her mother's bed. Then she wriggled her shoulders in one last moment of delight before reaching for her t-shirt and jeans. It was going to be the greatest Christmas ever. An angel! No one had ever picked her for anything before. Now she was going to be an angel in the Christmas play. It was the best part. Good morning, Arun. Great outfit, by the way. Great outfit. Good morning. Have a seat, have a seat. It was the best part, even better than Mary. The girl who played Mary had to keep her head down all the time, and her face was all covered with a crummy hood. The angel was the best. Everyone could see the angel. She pulled the t-shirt down and cinched it into her jeans, frowned and pulled it a little tighter. With a scowl, she looked down at the front of her t-shirt. Why were her breasts taking so long to get bigger? Were they ever going to look like Mother's? One quick tug pulled the top loose, and she looked at herself in the mirror. Would they look bigger if she left it loose? She turned sideways. It didn't fit tight enough. Eddie Carter wouldn't notice anything if she let it hang. She jammed the shirt back in as tightly as she could. She hesitated, fingering her mother's tube of lipstick, and dropped it. Better not. Daddy Phil was going to let her keep the eyebrow pencil. If she caught her with the lipstick, she might change his mind. As she crossed the street, she remembered the story that she had read in a library book. She started biting at her lip. In the story, the lady had made her lips look redder by rubbing her teeth against them. Cerise took one last bite before she slipped into the Carter's side door. Well, Cerise, you're looking pretty today. Eddie's mother stood at the sink, sloshing plates through one panful of suds. Her glance had only been a quick one, and Cerise knew she had not paid any attention than usual. She always said the exact same words. If you're looking for Eddie, he's in the basement wrapping up his dad's Christmas present. Cerise stared coldly at the woman's back and said, "Thank you, Mrs. Carter," with an emphasis on Mrs. Carter. It always helped her to get away from Daddy Phil's church lady. If you acted real polite, they didn't try to make you stand around and listen to them. Mrs. Carter didn't go to Daddy Phil's church, but she was exactly like the church ladies, ready to ignore her as soon as they heard a polite response. She walked down the basement steps, sauntering as if it wasn't really important. She hooked her thumb into the back pockets of her jeans and even managed to yawn when she walked into the Carter's family room. With an effort, she kept her voice bored and toneless as she said, "Hi." Eddie wadded up a newspaper, crammed it into a huge cardboard box, grabbed another newspaper, and began crumpling it into a ball. His rumpled red hair stood up and wildly in all directions from his head as he continued to pat the carton without turning his head to acknowledge her presence. Cerise ambled towards the pool table and leaned against it, still keeping her hands tucked behind her and straightening her shoulders. "What are you doing?" "I'm wrapping a present, dummy," he said without looking up. "Don't be so stupid." "Well, how can I tell?" she droned. "Looks more like you're making a mess out of a lot of paper." She waited, but she went on feeling the inside of the box without paying attention to her. "Must be a big present." "Nope." "Then why is the box so big?" "Because he would know what it is if I put it into a small box." This time Eddie turned and glared at her, but it was only a disgusted sneer. There was no sign that he noticed anything different about her. "Well, what is it?" she insisted. "A manlicha." "A what?" Okay, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that word. Manliker? Manliker? Manlicher? Hey, let's go find out how to spell this rifle's name.
Stretch!
Hey! Mannlicher. So it's German. Okay, so yeah. Oh wait, stretch? Yeah, stretch. Hey, Ando, what's up? I'm good. I'm busy today, but I'm still doing my readings. I got distracted about a million times just now. Hey, hey, hey. Mannlicher, Mannlicher. A Mannlicher. A what? She wrinkled up her nose at the strange word. A deer rifle, dummy. He straightened, stomped toward the pool table and snatched up a gun. His hands patted the wood as he held it, turning it back and forth to the light. See? Isn't it a beauty? Cerise shrugged her shoulders. It's only a gun. Guns aren't pretty. It's not just a gun, lizard. It's the best deer rifle there is. Dad's wanted one for years, and Mom and I finally managed to save enough to get it for him. He whistled between his teeth. Then he held the rifle up to his shoulder and aimed it at a Playboy calendar on the far wall. Wait till he sees this baby. Boy, is he going to swallow his back teeth? Some jerk swiped his old one. He squinted at the wall light, pretended to take aim, and squeezed the trigger. Pow! He said. Cerise sniffed. You're not supposed to do that. It might go off. Dummy, it's not loaded. He lowered the gun tenderly and laid it back on the table. It doesn't even have a clip in it. I'm not stupid. What's a clip? Eddie snorted. You don't know nothing, do you? It's this part. He reached for the sack and dumped the contents on the top of the pool table. This clip. It has to be in the gun or the gun won't shoot. He held up a small metal in front of her face. That little thing is a clip? It doesn't look that important. She leaned forward and peered at the piece in Eddie's hand, then lifted her head to look up at him, lowering her eyelashes seductively when she met his gaze. Yeah, it works like this. Eddie grabbed at the box of shells and shook a bunch of them out onto the green felt tabletop. With a quick movement, he placed 3 shells inside the clip. See? First you put the shells in the clip, then you put the clip right in here in the gun, and it's ready to shoot. He pulled the shells out of the tape magazine and dropped both shells and clip onto the tabletop. Cerise continued to frown. How do the shells get into the gun? Eddie sighed and pulled the bolt back on the gun. You are really stupid. Here, you slide the bolt back. It pops a shell from the clip up into here. When you shoot, you pull the bolt back and it pops out the casing. She looked into the inner workings of the gun as Billy placed it in front of her face, pointing to the parts. Right here. When the bullet gets into this space, it's ready to shoot. He put the guns back down onto the table and emitted another disgusted grunt. What a dummy, he grunted and mumbled. I gotta get some more newspaper. Don't monkey with nothing, lizard. Put the shells back into the box when I'm gone, and the clip too. Why don't you put it in the gun? Into the gun? You want me to get my ass chewed out? My dad don't never let anyone leave a clip into a rifle. He would rake me over coals, but good. Put it in with shells. That's the way he wants things. Cerise tossed a small piece of metal from hand to hand while he scrunched through the bookshelf looking for more newspapers. He had not even looked at her if he could still call her lizard. She should have put on some lipstick too, even if she had to wipe it off before she went home. Eddie, hurry up with your wrapping! Mrs. Carter echoed down from upstairs. Your dad's driving in! Oh, jeez! He snatched up a stack of magazines and began ripping the pages in a furious pace. Hey, lizard, help me. I gotta get this into the box. Her eyes narrowed thoughtfully and she reached for the rifle. She picked up a shell from the open box. With one quick push, she fit it into the gun. Eddie was right. A shell would fit into the space. She pushed the bolt back into the position and lifted the gun from the table. Her face twisted. It was much heavier than it looked. It made her arms ache to hold it. She panted and raised it over the edge of the box, letting it slip down into the bed of the newspaper. Grab the bag with the shells and clips, hurry! Eddie was tearing out the pages faster and faster. He always comes downstairs to get a beer when he gets home. I gotta have it all covered up. His hands worked feverishly, wadding the papers into the huge balls, whirling them into the box. Cerise dropped into the bag into the mound of paper and went back to leaning on the pool table. "You coming to the program at the church?" she asked. Eddie never looked up from his work and said, "Nope. I'm going to be an angel in the program." She waited, hoping he would at least turn his head and look at her. "So who cares?" Eddie muttered. "We open our Christmas presents on Christmas Eve. Who would want to go to some dumb program and miss opening their presents?" "You could open them on Christmas Day like we do." She scuffed at the carpet with the toe of her shoes. For a minute she considered punching Eddie in the back. Then maybe he would look at her. But she heard the door slam. She heard the door slam. Billy grabbed the last of the papers, shoving them into the box. Inside the box, he snatched up a huge roll of masking tape and started frantically taping the top of the box shut. "Get out of my way," he ordered. He shoved her aside with one hand and circled the huge box. Cerise doubled up one fist, but the sound of Mr. Carter's footstep on the stairwell made her drop her hands to her side. She didn't like Eddie's dad. Mr. Carter always smelled sweaty and belched too much. "I have to go." She started to the stairs and stepped aside. Mr. Carter reached the bottom of the steps and walked past her with only a brief nod. All the way up the stairs and across the yard, she kept wishing that she had at least given Eddie one good punch. But it would be alright. Mr. Carter would chew him out. Wait till he opens the package and found the shell in the gun. Boy, Eddie would wish he had paid more attention to her. She pushed the front door open and leaned back against it to close it. For a minute, she pushed her back hard against the wood and shut her eyes. "Please, God, make Eddie sorry he called me a lizard." "Cerise!" The sound of her mother's voice made Cerise's eyes fly open and she paused, tense and waiting. "Is that you, Cerise?" "Yes." She took a deep breath and eased her fist open before Wilma emerged from the bedroom. She forced herself to look up and smile before she met her mother's glance. "Boy, that Eddie is really stupid," she said and tossed her braid back with one hand. "All he looked at was the damn gun he bought his dad for Christmas. He never even noticed I looked different. He still called me a lizard." It was a quick movement. Wilma's hands flew up to cover her mouth, and Cerise took a deep breath. Mother's hand was hiding the expression of her lips, but the lines at the corners of her eyes gave away. Mother was laughing at her. "It isn't funny!" She hurled the words out and reached to snatch Wilma's hands down, away from her mouth, exposing the hidden smile. "It's not funny! Nobody's ever called you a lizard!" She released Wilma's hand and hurled it away from her. She gulped in a deep breath and tried to get her temper back under control. Must not shout. Daddy Phil never shouted. She couldn't stop the furious anger. Mothers weren't supposed to laugh at their children. Mothers were supposed to understand. She forced her mouth closed and glared steadily into Wilma's eyes, then turned and walked towards her room, her back straight with her chin up, pretending nothing was wrong. Mother was being as stupid as Eddie Carter. "Cerise, I'm sorry." She heard Wilma's words, but didn't stop. Mother shouldn't have laughed at her. "Cerise, I said I was sorry." This time, there was a harsh edge to the tone, and Cerise hesitated at the door to her bedroom. "Be mad if you want, but what Eddie Carter calls you doesn't make any difference. Everyone gets called names, especially by older boys." Cerise took a deep breath. "But they don't get laughed at by their own mother." She lowered her eyelashes and glanced out of the corner of her eye before bolting into her room and shutting the door. The look on her mother's face, the open mouth, the wide eyes. She must have been really sorry. Well, she should be. Cerise crawled up onto her bed. Crossed her legs underneath her. She closed her eyes and squeezed them together as she concentrated on praying. Eddie Carter would be sorry. She would pray hard, and God would fix things. God always fixed things if she prayed hard enough. The room was completely dark when the knock on the door made her eyes open. "Cerise, it's Daddy Phil." The sudden light made her blink when the door opened, and she stared up trying to see his face in the semi-lighted room. He didn't look mad. His eyes were lined, like they were they were when he was writing a sermon, like he had been thinking hard. It's time for dinner, Cerise, and your mother is worried about you. Why? He moved across the room and stood beside her bed. She bent her head, and his hand stroked the top of it. She says that you are mad at her. She laughed at me. Cerise stared down at the rose and the snail on the breastbed and whispered the words. I know, Daddy Phil murmured the words so softly she had to strain to hear him. She is sorry. We all say some things we are sorry for, Cerise. You don't. There was a soft laugh, and his hand slid down to her shoulder. Oh, I do. Ask your mother. She's the one who hears most of them. He kept on patting her shoulder. Cerise felt relaxed. He liked the firmness of his hand and the solid feeling they gave her. Your mother's been sitting in the living room waiting for you to come out. She felt so bad. She didn't even feel like getting dinner. I did the cooking, and I'll feel insulted if you don't come out to eat. Cerise stiffened. She didn't sew either? No, she's really feeling sorry, Cerise. You should be kind and forgiving. His hand stopped, slid around, and lifted her chin. God would want you to be forgiving, Cerise. She could see the light shining on his cheek, and the soft look in his eyes when he gazed down into her face. I will, Daddy Phil, I will. She reached out and clasped her legs. Her hand struck the metal of his belt buckle, and she put one hand to her forehead. She felt the sudden jerk of his body and the hardened lump under the fabric where her cheek rested. His backward step was hasty and awkward. He stammered, well, come eat. With a few quick steps, he was out of the room. Cerise stared after him and fought the urge to smile. Instead, she stretched herself slowly off the bed. She tucked her t-shirt down into her jeans and ran her tongue across her lips before leaving the room. As she crossed the door, she glanced at the kitchen, but Daddy Phil was being too careful about not looking into her direction. The smile flitted across her face before she bent to give her mother a swift hug. It's okay, I'm not mad anymore. She watched her mother's face carefully as she talked. We can eat now. She relaxed her grip and stepped back, waiting for Wilma's reaction. I'll swear you'll give me a grey hair yet. The way you change moods. 1 minute you look like you hate me, then now you're ready to feed your face. Cerise wrinkled her nose. I am impetuous. Don't use words that I don't understand. Wilma snapped, but her eyes were gentle. Cerise only smiled and used her most polite, church-like voice to answer, Yes, Mother. Wilma's sigh made Cerise relax. When Mother sighed with a deep it meant that she was going to forget the argument. They could eat, then Mother would go back to hemming the angel's dress. Cerise concentrated hard on being as polite as she could. She said please and thank you and didn't make faces at Matt. The dress had to be finished by Friday, and Mother said it was miles of hemming. After Friday, no one would call her lizard, and God would fix Eddie Cutter. She said her prayers over and over when she went to bed. God only worked if you prayed really hard, and God had to fix Eddie Cutter. Eddie had to be sorry. As the Christmas pageant unfolded, Wilma found herself waiting breathlessly for the appearance of the angel. Matt had stopped squirming and was staring in the rapt attention of the figures on the stage. She found a strange comfort in the soft music of Silent Night. For the first time, she felt no resentment towards the people around her. The warmth of sentiment in the music made her turn to smile at Clara Thayer, who sat rigidly beside Matt. Her smile changed to an open-mouthed amazement. Clara Thayer smiled back, then bent her head and looked down at her lap. The averting of the older woman's glance hadn't quite hidden the tears. Wilma reached forward across Matt to squeeze her mother-in-law's hand. She hadn't been fair to Clara. If anyone doted on Kathleen, it had been Clara. How empty her life must be right now. The spotlight came on, illuminating Cerise. They both turned towards the stage when the intake of breathing from the audience indicated approval. In the harsh glare, Cerise's blonde hair hung loose and shimmered with the dancing light highlights. The girl's arm lifted gradually upward and hovered above the heads of the three burlap-robed shepherds. The soloist began a hesitant and faltering, while the shepherds watched their flocks by night. Wilma held her breath. The singer wavered precariously on. A childish voice squeaked into a high note, but Cerise remained motionless, steady in angelic perfection. It was worth every minute of hemming the chiffon. The dress fell in soft folds. The sleeves moved airily in the slight breeze of a hidden fan. Cerise's eyes appeared close, and the light glowed across her cheekbone, making her porcelain skin glisten. Someone had fashioned her a pair of wings etched in the silver trim that reflected darts of lights into the air. The wings were attached with a gold sash that crisscrossed Cerise's chest. Wilma's hand tightened over the clasp of her purse. The effect of the costume was exactly what she didn't want. It made Cerise look busty, too busty. Was there padding under all that chiffon? She twisted her head and peered at the faces around her, only gaping attention, pleasant smiles. She turned back and leaned against the solid wooden pew. No one else would notice, she thought. No one else would know Cerise wasn't that well developed. Cerise's timing was perfect. Before the reedy sound of the soloist's voice died away, Cerise's eyes flew open and one arm moved in a dramatic sweep of the stage. Her words came through clear and unwavering in the silence of the church. Ye will find him in Bethlehem. Wilma clutched her perch even harder. Cerise dominated the stage. Phil would insist on having her at the services. Before, it had been only an idea, but after this, Phil would be eager and insistent. Cerise was too young. The choir voices rose in volume, bringing the program to a finale. Wilma watched Cerise make a low, sweeping bow and swallowed hard at the gleam of triumph in the girl's eyes. Where was Phil? She took a quick look around the church, but the movements of the crowd made it impossible to see him. Parents are gathering up coats, and hands began to grasp her arm. My goodness, how your girl has grown up! The best program we have ever had. Oh, good to see you out again, Mrs. Thayer. How old is she now? She must be at least 13. The voices came at Wilma from every wide, and she could only nod politely. She wanted to scream at them. She's not grown up. She's not even 11 yet. But the voices moved on, and she was left clutching her purse tighter and tighter, following Matt and Clara Thayer out of the church. Where's Cerise? Matt craned his head and looked at his mother. Aren't we going to wait for Cerise? She'll meet us out in the front as soon as she takes off her wings, Wilma answered. Why doesn't she keep her wings? They aren't her wings, Matt. She borrowed them. She could see Matt screwing his face into a puzzled contortions and groaned to herself. They were almost at the door. If Matt asked any more questions, she was going to leave him with Phil. Let Phil explain how angels could borrow things. Her knee banged into Matt in the line. When the line came into a halt, Clara Thayer held her son's hand with a grasp that made the knuckles white. Her chin quivered, and once again, Wilma caught a glimpse of the dampness in Clara's eyes. Phil leaned close to his mother's ear, and Clara nodded, then moved on. I asked Mother to stay for hot chocolate, Phil said. Her car is not at our house anyway. He touched Wilma's shoulder lightly with his fingertips. He sounded hesitant, as if he was asking her for approval, and Wilma nodded. Why can't she spend the night, Phil? She saw his eyebrows lifted and added, It's silly for her to go home and come back for dinner tomorrow. His hands rested lightly on her head, ruffling her curls with an affectionate pat. You ask her, honey. She would feel more welcome, he said. His glistening brown eyes were wide and pleading. She turned away before she lost her self-control. No wonder Clara Thayer couldn't let go of Phil. His eyes must haunt her as much as Kathleen's. Wilma elbowed and nudged her eyes through a collected mass of overweight women to reach Clara and Matt. "Are you sure I won't be in the way?" Clara's face lit up the invitation, but there were lines of doubts across her forehead, lines that disappeared into a beaming happiness when Matt uttered aloud, "Oh boy, do I get to sleep in my sleeping bag?" Clara's laughter was unusual, a short, quick catch in the back of her throat, followed by a slight gurgling sound. She looked down at Matt and then turned to Wilma with a sober earnestness and said, "We'd better enjoy this one, Wilma. He's the only little one left." Clara shifted her feet and looked away, leaving Wilma feeling oddly embarrassed. And not for herself, but for Clara Thea's discomfort. "Okay, the star is ready. Shall we walk home?" One moment, please. Okay, I'm back, sorry. Okay. Wilma tilted her head and met Phil's question with a nod. Cerise stood beside him, one hand clasping her coat, which was draped around her shoulders like a cape. She glanced from one parent to another, then shrugged and swept dramatically ahead of them. One hand gathered the folds of her skirt up away from the ground. She was walking confidently, as if she had been wearing long skirts all her life. Phil's arms went around Wilma's shoulder. She really made a perfect angel. He started humming softly to himself, and Wilma felt a queasy twist in her stomach. Phil was too elated about the evening. He was already planning on taking Cerise to gospel meetings. She could feel it. The way Cerise was prancing, swinging her shoulders, holding her chin up and tossing her head, it was going to be a losing battle. They were lining up against her. "Look, Daddy! Look at the lights!" Matt's voice was all shrill intrusion into her thought. Her head jerked up, and her eyes followed his excited pointing. Two revolving lights sent shafts of blue sweeping into the night, lighting and relighting the roadside in an eerie imitation of daylight. Lights from the Carter's kitchen were crossed by a silhouette figure of a uniformed man, recrossed by another shadow. Wilma's hand went to her throat. She watched the red light blinking on and off in an unremitting pattern. The ambulance crouched at the back door like a giant beetle waiting for its prey. Hurrying figures moved through the alien illumination. The door opened and closed, opened and closed. Shadowy figures moved from car to house and back again. The crackling of a radio broke the ominous silence. "Police cars?" Cerise stopped so suddenly she lost her grip of the white chiffon. The wispy material caught in the chilly winter air current and swelled up around the edges of her coat. "They're at the Carters!" Phil's arm dropped away from Wilma, and he hurried forward. "I'll better see if there's anything I can do." "There's an ambulance too!" Cerise's voice had an excited pitch. She snatched frantically to regain control of her skirts, but when she looked at Wilma, her eyes were white and glistening. "Hurry up, Mother! Something must have happened!" She gathered up the chiffon and started after Phil. Her blonde hair swirled around her face and shimmered in the flashing blue lights. "Cerise, stop!" Wilma squished the command out and halting Cerise in the middle of her spring. "You aren't going. You stay with us." "But Daddy Phil's going there. I'm going with him." She turned towards Wilma, her feet still braced and ready to continue the dash. "You cannot go everywhere Phil goes." Wilma beat at the air with one fist. "You are going into the house, and don't argue." "Mother!" The word was dragging out in defiant, half-protesting wail. Wilma's queasy feeling disappeared and was replaced with a knot of rage that'd been pushing itself out from the pit of her stomach. A pressure built inside her until she looked into Cerise's eyes and took a long, deep breath. This time, the words came out loud and slowly, but shaking with an inner fury. "One more word and I'll rip that angel costume apart." She jerked her chin up and glared down into the suddenly sight green eyes. Cerie's lips parted, hesitated a brief moment, and closed. Her eyes fell away from Wilma's intense glare. She paused, then flipped her hair back, straightened, and walked towards the house with her own chin up and jutted forward. The rigidness of her shoulders, the rhythmic evenness of her steps, Wilma clenched her teeth. Cerise was making a defiant march instead of an obedient retreat. The touch on her arm was gentle, a reminder. Wilma turned and looked up at Clara Thayer. In her rage at Cerise, she had forgotten both Matt and her mother-in-law. "Maybe I shouldn't stay." Clara's voice was faint and troubled. "I put the presents in the house already. Maybe I'll be in the way." In the spectral flashes of blue light, Clara's face showed tiny hair-like wrinkles in her mouth. The tautness of her skin over the bones of her face made her seem thinner than ever. The woman looked as if she was losing her body juices and turning into old leather. "No," Wilma said, and found herself meaning it. "I don't want to wait for Phil alone. Please stay." She drew her collar tightly against her throat and shivered. It was more than cold. It was dread. Fear. She was afraid to know what was happening at the Carter's house. She moved more rapidly, anxious to get inside her house, as if the walls could keep the blue lights away. Her teeth and her head started a rapid vibration. Her fingers shook. Her feet began moving faster and faster towards the door. She turned away from the cars. Now she could see only the flickering blue lights darting their presence on the white siding of the house. The sounds, the electronic vibrations, static and other voices inside. She could shut the sound out when they were all inside. Matt dawdled at the doorway, turning back to look at the police cars. She put the palm of her hand against his back and shoved. She pushed him into the room and stepped back, almost propelling Clara across the threshold with the firmness of her grasp on the woman's elbow. She slammed the door shut and leaned against it, trying to slow her rapid breathing, to gather up the security of her own living room and hold it around her like another coat. "Cerise, get away from the window!" She found enough air in her lungs to rasp out the order when she saw the girl leaning on the windowsill, staring out the window with an excited eagerness. Cerise was becoming impossible. "Did you hear me?" She screamed at the unmoving figure. "Mind!" Cerise only continued to stare. "The ambulance is going away." Wilma heard the words in a half-fogged fury. There was no siren at all. Her eyes moved towards Clara Thayer, who was standing behind Cerise. Clara could see what was happening. The flat dullness of Clara's eyes, an imperceptible shake of the head, like the ambulance at the picnic, the one that took Kathleen. No need to hurry, no siren. Wilma pushed herself away from the door and snatched for the drapery cord. With one swift yank, she shut the view of the Carter's house out of her living room. She leaned against the wall, holding the cord in her hand, and shook with anger. "How can you stand there and stare at other people's misery?" She choked and tried to understand the expression on Cerise's face. The girl had frozen in her watchful position, her head turned towards her mother. The eyes were half closed, accented by her mascara. They held a firmness and inanimal glitter, a hardness that disappeared when Cerise relaxed her shoulders and opened her eyes wider. The muscles in her cheeks softened. She shrugged as if the closed curtains were no longer important. "I wasn't staring. I was interested," she announced in a cool voice. "Something happened to Eddie Carter and I want to know what." Wilma stared at her, trying to believe what she heard. Cerise was stating it as if she was positive. "How can you tell? All you saw was an ambulance. Mr. Carter could have had a heart attack. Mrs. Carter could have gotten sick. What makes you think it was Eddie?" Cerise straightened and flipped her hair back. "Because Eddie is horrid and God is going to punish him." Her eyes narrowed, but the gaze was unwavering and steady. She looked at Wilma as if challenging her to argue. There was a positive and unshakable sound in Cerie's voice. Wilma sat against the arm of the Davenport and began unbuttoning her coat. It was automatic reaction. She felt neither cold nor warm. Everything inside her had ceased to function. All the blood had stopped pumping. The nerves were dead in her skin. Nothing in her body seemed real. Want to see the tree, Grandma? Matt's voice, penetrating her dulled senses, was a welcome relief. He scrambled around the carpet at the foot of the tree. Presents tumbles, and the tree lights flared into full color. Wilma felt her lungs expand when the glowing lights cascaded warmth into the room. Look! There's presents from Mommy and Daddy! Matt picked up the packages, shook them, and tilted his head, listening to the sounds of the content. There are some from me, too, Clara said, and she bent towards a stack of plain tissue wrappings. Didn't have any fancy paper, but I hope everyone likes what I bought. Everyone? Cerise had turned her head. Penciled brows arched upward. Yes, everyone, Clara repeated. Yours the biggest one, the bottom one. She reached over Matt's shoulder and pointed a skinny finger at the tag. See? To Cerise from... There was a slight pause before Clara Thayer cleared her throat. From Grandma Thayer. Cerise gazed at the package and stooped to pick it up. She shook it gently and squeezed the tissue paper before glancing at her grandmother. She met Clara's eyes in a long, appraising stare. It was Cerise who turned away, murmuring a polite, "Thank you." She tucked the presents back under the tree and stood up, shaking the folds of her skirt. Then she lifted her head and added, "Thank you, Grandma Thayer." Her tongue slid across her lips, and Wilma sighed with satisfaction at seeing the lipstick gradually disappearing. Wilma forced herself to move towards the kitchen, but stopped to say, "Cerise, you and Matt get your pajamas on. Cerise, be sure to wash your face." Action helped her keep her mind from the lights at the Carter's house. "I'm going to fix the hot chocolate." It was an effort, acting as if this was going to be a normal Christmas Eve. Normal? What was normal? Sirens that weren't used? Silent ambulances? Her hand shook. Milk spilled across the countertop. She reached for a sponge and found herself wiping and rewiping the same spot, wondering when Phil was going to come home. It was a silent crowd, unusually silent. Not even a whisper stirred among the neighbors huddled in a small group around the lawn. The downturned faces of two women hiding their mouth with their work-reddened hands indicated the seriousness of the tragedy. "I'm Reverend Thayer, the Carter's neighbor." One uniformed man turned his head and nodded. Light from a yellow bug light on the back porch gave the deputy's face a greenish cast. Or was it the green of the Multnoma's country sheriff's uniform, reflecting on the youthfulness of the man's skin? "Oh, go on in. Maybe they can use you." The man waved a brown gloved hand towards the door. And in an afterthought admonished, "Don't get in the way." "I'm Reverend Thayer." The same explanation repeated again. Moved him through the back hall, past two ambulance attendants who stood with their backs braced against the wall waiting for a signal. One of them jerked his head towards the kitchen with a terse, "Check in there," and returned to the task of paring his nail with the jackknife. Again, the explanation, this time the deputy with the tired lines worn into his cheeks. He listened without comment and pushed his hat to the back of his head, exposing graying temples below a sparsely covered scalp. "Wait a minute, gotta make a phone call. Besides, the dog has to get out of his way." Phil shoved his hand into his coat pockets and waited. The officer's voice was low. His back was turned. What happened? What? He should have asked the ambulance attendants. Phil shifted uneasily and waited for the man to finish. The receiver clicked into place and the officer turned. His eyes showed a dull fatigue as his glance traveled up and down, evaluating Phil before squinting in a question. "You, their preacher?" "No," Phil shook his head. Don't think they went to any church. I'm only a neighbor. The officer rubbed at the tip of his nose for a few minutes before he made a decision. Guess that's enough. God knows they'll need somebody. Christ, I get tired of these damn accidents. His mouth twisted. Oh, sorry, preacher. The language goes with the job. I understand. Phil waved a hand as if to brush the words away. He heard the words before, and he wondered if the police officer would believe it. When the deputy face relaxed, Phil asked, You said accident. What happened? Another of those stupid unloaded gun things. God, because some dumb shit gets a new gun for Christmas, first thing he does is shoot up his own damn kid. For Christ's sake, sorry, preacher, I can't help it. The deputy shook his head once more, jammed his cap to forward, putting his tired eyes in the shadow. The boy? Eddie? Was shot? Phil felt a twinge hit his stomach at the thought. Billy Carter? How bad is it? The deputy cap moved from side to side. Dead. Preacher. Out and out dead. Old man cocked the rifle. One shot right through the kid's neck snapped the spinal column. The kid didn't stand a chance. Can you imagine? The kid's sitting there all hyped up, waiting to see the old man's reaction. The next thing, pow! No, kid. He tilted his head back, and Phil sensed the eyes measuring him once more. If you're going to get sick, preacher, will you use the John? My partner's already hit the sink. He cleaned it up, but it stinks. Damn rookie. Phil shook his head and swallowed the warm saliva that was surging up his throat. I'll be okay. The kitchen was too small, too hot. He swallowed again and wished he was outside the cold air. He should have gone home with... Oh. Hey! Oh, Gatsby! Hey, you made it! Hey, thank you for coming here. Thank you. The kitchen was too small, too hot. He swallowed again and wished that he was outside in the cold air. He should have gone home with Wilma and the kids. Anywhere but here. Pray. He should pray. He closed his eyes and inhaled. Breathe slowly. Breathe deep. Ask for strength. Are you sure you're okay, preacher? You don't look so hot. Phil smiled weakly and opened his eyes. I'll make it, he murmured. But he was grateful to see the deputy turn away and started into the living room. Gotta check with the doc, preacher. You wait here. He was alone, only for a few minutes, but alone. He had time to compose himself, time to think of something to say to the Carters. There were no answers coming into his mind. He stood questioning himself. What good could he do here? What made him think he could comfort the Carters? He couldn't even ease his own wife's agony. How was he going to find words to say to the Carters when he had never found the right ones for Wilma? Whatever he said, he knew the Carters couldn't accept it as God's will. Wilma only turned away from him when he tried to explain. Ceres was young enough. Ceres accepted it, but the older ones felt death as a pain. What was Ceres going to say? Would she accept Eddie's death as an act of God? It wasn't an act of God, though. This was an act of careless man. And Phil bent his head, praying for compassion. Okay, preacher. The deputy's voice cut into his prayers. Doc signed the death certificate. Says that if you are in there when they take the body out, it might help. The deputy stood nodding his head as if agreeing with himself. Guess he's right. Some folks all go to hell when they see the body going. First time they really believe it, I guess. He motioned towards the door and hesitated. I wonder if you could do me a favor. If it's possible, Phil answered. Mrs. Carter has a sister. I called her. She has agreed to come out. But it might take an hour to get here. Will you stay with them until she shows up? You're leaving? The man nodded. Nothing more for us here. Accident. Plain and simple. Body goes, we go. He stepped aside as Phil started into the living room and muttered, Good luck, preacher. Phil was forced to peer around the room before he could spot the Carters. He turned his head away to avoid watching the ambulance attendants bent over the dark shape to his right. He looked past another deputy who snapped his notebook closed and jammed his hat back onto his head. Past the deputy and past the Christmas tree, with its blinking apparatus still turning the rainbow of lights on and off, on and off, on and off. Why didn't someone unplug the lights? Now Carter, huddled in the depths of an armchair that was parting at several seams, the cotton stuffing trying to erupt and spill out of the chair of the dark brown tapestry covering. She huddled in the chair, hugging herself and staring into the fireplace. She stared at the flames shooting up and sending flashes of light across her face. Her eyes were unmoving, unseeing. If it weren't for the steady rocking back and forth of her body, she could have been carved from granite. Mr. Carter sat on the hearth, head down, clutching an unstoppable decanter in his hands. The biting scent of whiskey hovered in the room. Long, low moans come from Carter's open mouth. He paused, tilted the bottle, and after the sound of gurgling liquid, began moaning once more. Hey, King Komodo! Haven't seen you for a while. Oh, hey, thank you for being here. Thank you, thank you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Please take a seat. It was a moaning that made goosebumps run on Phil's back. Okay. Alright, I'll drink my coffee. What was Carter's first name? He could remember her name, Nell, but what about his? He groped through the blackness of his mind and growing a sense of panic. He couldn't remember Carter's first name. He couldn't call the man Mr. Carter. They borrowed tools from each other. Carter had helped him put up the partitions in the children's bedroom, worked with him shoulder to elbow, holding sheetrock, pounding nails, and he couldn't think of the man's first name. Nice! You're on Endwalker now? That's great! Oh, hello, Kyorakun. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much. Please take a seat and please tune in to my Twitch channel to listen to the story. Thank you so much for being here, guys. I feel like I'm running a church or something. Dark. I don't know. This is definitely creepy church that I'm running. Endwalker's great. Keen, are you in okay, there are so many viewers. Okay, I'm gonna continue reading. I'll talk to you in a little bit, okay? Keen. Komodo. To Phil's right, man moved the plastic-covered shape onto the stretcher, lifting the lumpy weight in a quick swing as if it were only a large garbage bag. The clicking of a fastener, the whir of wheels. Only a dark spot on the carpet was left. Blood. Such a small spot of blood. He moved forward, hesitating, still fumbling in his mind for Carter's first name. The deputy's voice rumbled as if far in the distance. "We are going now. Reverend Thayer's here. He'll stay until his sister gets here." The woman's face turned away from the flames. The eyes remained blank. She stared at Phil with the same unseeing expression, then turned back to watch the fire. "Ned, it's Phil Thayer." Her laconic, disinterested voice drifted into almost a whisper. She continued to clutch her arms and rock her body back and forth in silent self-comfort. Phil squatted in front of the man and rested one hand on his shoulder. Ned Carter raised his hand and stared into Phil's eyes. The sharp stench of whiskey stung Phil's nostril as he looked into the man's red, tear-filled eye. If you come here to preach, Phil, we don't need it. The man moaned in the back of his throat. Too late for preaching. Don't need no preaching. Don't need no praying. I'm here as a neighbor, Ned. Phil lowered himself to the floor and sat looking up at the soundless tears running down Ned Carter's face. The three lights kept their steady flashes, sending colored reflections of red and yellow back from Ned Carter's eyes. The bottle of whiskey clutched in Ned's hands reflected back the same arrays of hues: red, blue, green, on and off, on and off. Ned Carter looked down at the bottle in his hand. His shoulders heaved and shook. He gripped the narrow neck of the decanter with both hands, lifted it, and took a long pull at the content. I can't understand it. Just can't. The man's voice rasped. Another long moan emerged from his throat. Taught the boy, since he was big enough to walk. Taught him about guns. He knew better. Only a damn fool would put a shell in a gun and then wrap it. He knew better. He choked. Tears began to spill over the edge of his chin, dripping into his sleeve in a pattern of wet dots that gleamed in the flashing of the tree lights. I was hoping to get the feel of it, trying it out. How I was to know? He stopped again and took a firmer grip on the bottle. Why would she put a shell in the gun? Why would he do anything so dumb? Why? Phil could only shake his head. He couldn't find any words. He looked up at Billy's mother, but she was still silently not rocking herself as if she didn't hear her husband's voice. Ned Carter turned his head and followed Phil's glance. This time, the moan became a howl of pain. He got to his feet and stumbled. His hand flailed through a mass of wrapping paper and sent papers flying into the air. Gaudy patterns of Santa Claus and candy cane boxes swirled about the room. A red ribbon fell and clung to his shoe. He hurled a gold foil package at the wall. A choking gurgle echoed in his chest. He lurched towards the Davenport and swept the rifle out from the cushions with one hand. The bottle fell at his feet, whiskey splashing out across the carpet, and Ned Carter began to scream. With a scream of rage that sounded as if it were rising from his testicles, Ned Carter dashed the butt of the rifle against the rock of the fireplace. Then, grasping the barrel, he began swinging it over his head and down, smashing the wooden stock against the grey boulders again and again, raising the rifle and pounding the wood into splintered fragments. All Phil could do was watch helplessly. Watch until Ned Carter's arms tired, the swing of the rifle not quite so wide. The breath became heavier between each swing until the man stood panting, each breath a broken sob. Spit ran from the side of his mouth and dripped off his chin. Phil stood waiting. When Ned Carter slumped to his knees, Phil caught the falling rifle and watched Carter collapse, folding into a lump on the floor. Carter beating the floor with one fist, crying out in heavy sobs, muttering, "He knew better! Eddie knew better!" Still mumbling a string of incoherent words, Ned Carter closed his eyes and passed out. The static sound of the blinker buzzed off and on, and the Christmas tree lights continued to dance. Splotches of yellow and green appeared and disappeared on Ned Carter's sleeping face. Phil reached over, righted the fallen decanter of whiskey, and placed it on the hearth. He tossed another log on the dying flame and watched the light playing their reflections on the glass of the almost empty decanter. The lights were too much. He had to stop the lights. Had to find the cord. A scarlet glass ball crashed to the floor and disintegrated into bits of crimson. A package crunched under his knees. He found the wall outlet and yanked at the plug. The buzzing ceased. The tree was dark. Only the light from the fire illuminated the room. Ned Carter's breathing had become deep and irregular. Phil looked at the big man with tousled red hair and envied him the release he had found in the alcohol. At least, Ned Carter had found a way to sleep. But Ellie Carter... She didn't look as if she would sleep for days. Not until exhaustion forced her eyes closed, and he still couldn't find any words. Now, is there anything I can say? He moved to the side of her chair and put his hand on her arm. I didn't come except as a neighbor, but I will say a prayer if you like. She stopped rocking and looked blankly in his direction, then shook her head and began rocking her body with her arms once more. He stared down at the floor and bit his lower lip. What was he doing here? They were not even his parishioners. He wasn't good at this sort of things. In fact, he hated sick calls, hated burials. He wanted to be with the living. What could he do for Nell Carter? Ned's hand twitched, and he groaned in his stupor. I'll get Ned into the bedroom for you, he said, and patted her shoulder. Let him be. She startled him when she spoke. Even more, when she stopped rocking back and forth, she lifted her head and looked up into his eyes. There was a drawn tightness in the skin of her face. The twist of her mouth was like the anguish of someone in physical pain. He'll wake up soon enough, Phil. A soft bed isn't going to make his sleep any more healing. I feel helpless now. I'm supposed to bring people comfort, but I can't find any words. Not your fault. We are not church-going folks. She reached out with one hand and patted his arm, a gentle, consoling pat. Phil felt as if his lungs had turned into blocks of ice. He was supposed to be helping her. He was doing it all wrong. These things didn't happen at gospel meetings. He knew how to get people fired up about living, but he knew nothing about this. He was an evangelist, not a minister. Now, the words would jam up his throat. All he could manage was to repeat, Is there anything I can do? She nodded her head, and the firelight reflected the dampness of her cheeks. One thing. Name it. Her head turned towards her sleeping husband and then back to Phil. In the desk drawer, top left, there's a pistol. Take it. Take it? I don't want to see another gun. Ever. Especially in this house. She clutched at her arms once more. Get rid of it for me. I don't care what you do with it. I want it gone. Her chin quivered, but each word was slow, distinct, and final. I want it out of this house. All right. What was he going to do with it? What on earth could he do? Throw it away? Better not. The wrong person might find it. Ned might want it back. Why was he fretting about a gun? Why was he having so much trouble making a simple decision? Get it out of this house. Make Nell happy and figure it out later. Anything else? He asked. She bobbed her head. After you do it, you can go. You don't need to stay. It was nice of you, but I'd rather sit here alone. He felt the ice melt and flow out of his lungs at the freedom of his duty. What else can I do? She began to rock back and forth again, bending forward even more, like a person with bad stomach cramps. There's a scatter rug in the hall, she said. Will you pull it over? Over. Her voice stopped, and she looked up at him with her eyes wide and pleading. I understand, Phil said, and patted her shoulder. She sighed and curled her feet up underneath her on the chair. She collapsed into a corner of the chair with the firelight flickering across her face, no longer rocking back and forth, but still hugging herself tightly against the chilling events of the night. Phil moved across the darkened room and opened the desk drawer. The gun was holstered, wrapped in a cartridge belt. It was bulky, but he managed to wedge it into his overcoat pocket. It hung there heavy and threatening, while he tossed the hand-hook rug over the stained carpet and smoothed out the wrinkles. He felt it thudding against his hip when he straightened and stared down at the floor. Such a small spot of blood, so easily hidden. He paused at the hallway and looked back. Ellie Carter never lifted her head or glanced in his direction.
At least she had leaned back against the chair and was sitting quietly, not moving, only staring at the tongues of the fire and aging minute by minute. The fire snapped. A long, turbulent snore rose from the sleeping shape at her feet. Phil shifted the weight of the pistol, stepped into the empty yard. The ambulance, the cars, the bystanders were all gone. Grey shadows of frosted sprinkled the lawn. The blades of grass snapped, crunched in protest. He pulled his coat tightly around his body, and the gun jarred his hips, a grim reminder of his presence. Better not take in the house. Wilma would be so upset, though. If she saw the gun, she would never calm down. He was relieved to see the drapes in the living room had been drawn. No one was watching out the window and was waiting for him. He swerved and crunched across the frozen grass to the back of the house towards the office entrance. He opened the door quietly. He quickly unlocked the desk and shoved the pistol back into his drawings. The desk was relocked and secure. He stood in the dark office and leaned against the desk, waiting for his strength to return. He felt as if he had been traveling all day. He was back with his family, back in his own home, but hollow inside. He had failed again. He wasn't a minister. He wasn't able to be soothing and comforting. Let some other minister handle the grief. He wasn't going to do it again. A man have to face his own failings. Another 2 months and this sort of things wouldn't happen. Eugene was big enough of a city. No one would pay any attention if he avoided a neighbor in trouble. Pleasanton was too small. No more small communities. He pulled his coat and ran his fingers through his hair before he looked at his watch. The children must be in bed. The only one he had to face tonight with the tragic story would be Wilma and his mother. And Phil walked down the hall and said a quick prayer before he entered the house. It was Wilma. He dreaded facing Wilma, who still got tears in his eyes when Kathleen's name was mentioned. He had not only failed her, but he had alienated her from the church. He stepped into the house and took a deep breath. It wasn't until after Matt went to bed that Clara started feeling the first fingers of apprehension chilling her spinal column. Philip was certainly staying at the Carters for a long time. Sorry. For a long time. Too long for it to be a simple heart attack. Could the girl be right? An accident. The boy. The girl. Not the girl. Cerise. She must stop thinking of her as the girl. She had to accept it and live with it, like it or not. She didn't like it. Didn't like the look on Cerise's face. So positive that God was punishing Eddie Carter. The girl's eyes. They were like the dead goslings. The same look. Cat's eyes seeking out the prey. The tomcat defying her. The same eyes. How will Wilma cope with the girl? Cerise. She had to remember to use her name. Philip was right. She had to quit being so stubborn. But Wilma was doing a good job. She had to admit it. Fixing the hot chocolate, all covered with whipped cream and a dusting of nutmeg. Sending the kids off to bed. She wasn't letting Cerise buffalo either. Stood right up and ordered her to bed, no matter how sweetly she begged to wait up for Philip. Odd child. Wilma finally snapped. Maybe nothing happened. Maybe the ambulance left because it wasn't needed, she said. It was at that moment. One moment. It was at that moment that Clara first remembered the Goslings, the defiant look in the girl's eyes, the mouth, almost, but not quite, a sneer. Nothing you could put your finger to correct a child about. You couldn't correct her for a taunting derision you felt. Cerise had given them both that one last look and disappeared behind her bedroom door. She snapped out of her wool gathering with a startled jerk of her shoulders. Philip was standing beside the table. How long had he been in there? He hadn't said a word. Philip? She found herself staring and waited with her hands folded before her. She had tried to read, but the words all blurred. Wilma had dragged out a stack of match shirts for mending. She noticed Wilma was still on the same shirt, looking at the same sleeve over and over. Phil, the ambulance. It. Wilma floundered, dropped the shirt back onto the stack of mending, and waited with her lips apart. Her face was had acquired a chalky color, making her eyes look wider, bluer, and more frightened. It was Eddie. Philip's voice was flat, tired sounding. He dragged a chair out from the dining room table and almost fell into it. Stupid accident. What? Wilma's hand went to her mouth. Her teeth closed over the flesh of her thumb while she waited for Philip to continue. He leaned forward with his elbows on his knees and stared down at the carpet. Carter. Ned got a new hunting rifle. Eddie wrapped it himself. Evidently he tried loading it. Forgot to take the shell out again. Phil's shoulders shook. The room was so quiet Clara could hear the sound of his jaw snapping when he swallowed hard. Anyhow, it went off and Eddie was killed. Clara leaned back in her chair and laced her fingers together. You are right, Philip. It was stupid. Most accidents are. Wilma snapped with a fury that made Clara open her eyes and stare at her daughter-in-law. Wilma's eyes were wide, flashing pool of blue. Both fists were clenched, but she wasn't looking at either Clara or her husband. The poor parents. Oh God, what a hell that's made of Christmas for them. Clara stiffened in shock at Wilma's word, and at her glance flew towards Philip. Surely he wasn't going to allow his wife to use language like that. But Philip only nodded, and his head slumped further forward. His hands went up to hold his head, and he continued to stare at the floor. She took a deep breath and sniffed. Well, it was Philip's house, Philip's wife. No wonder he didn't want her to help him in his ministry. Phil, what about the Carters? Should I go over? The fire had gone out of Wilma's eyes. Color began to ebb back into his cheeks. No, there's no need for you to go. His voice sounded flat. Mrs. Carter has a sister who is on her way right now. Ned drank himself to sleep. Philip chewed nervously at his lip. He sat there with a bottle of whiskey, maybe his second one for all I know. Sat there and drank until he passed out on the living room floor. Poor guy. This was too much. Sympathy for a drunkard? First Wilma used profanity. Now Philip sympathizing with an alcoholic? Clara slapped the table with one hand. Poor guy indeed! Drinking is a sin, and you sit there feeling sorry for him. You should have taken the whiskey away, thrown it out. You were supposed to pray for those poor people, not sit there and allow sin to go on right in front of you. What kind of minister are you, Philip? He straightened in the chair and stretched his long legs in front of him. For a second he looked at his feet as if seeing them for the first time. Then he glanced up at her. His eyes looked as tired as his voice sounded. That's the problem, Mother. I am not a minister. I am an evangelist. He raised one hand to stop her from interrupting. If the poor man can find some relief for his misery in drinking himself to sleep, who am I to stop him? His eyes were fixed on Wilma's face while he talked. Clara choked back at her protest as he continued to explain. When it comes to words of comfort and easing someone's grief, I simply do not have the ability. I am a failure at it. I can't do it. Wilma's expression puzzled Clara. She was looking at Philip and nodding her head. Her eyes had softened as if she understood and was supporting him. Well, she probably would. A woman who had used the word hell and took the Lord's name in vain. She might be a good mother, but Wilma certainly was not a good minister's wife. She had warned Philip, and now she's getting weak. Weakness didn't belong in a ministry. Belonged in a minister. Clara turned her back to Philip and tapped one finger on the table to emphasize each word. You're talking nonsense, Philip. A minister can always pray. If he can't find the words himself, he can always pray for God's help. He cannot condone drinking. She shot a quick glance at Wilma. Or profanity. You are not a failure, Philip, but you are weak. It was a duty to stop Mr. Carter from drinking and pray for those people. It's part of a minister's duty. She pushed herself back in the chair and lifted her chin defiantly. Philip's eyes had lost its softness. He only shook his head once more. You are you weren't listening, Mother. I admitted that I am not a minister. I cannot comfort any people. I can rouse their eagerness, make them excited, but I cannot ease their suffering. Ned Carter didn't want my prayers, Mother. He specifically asked me not to pray for them, so I did not. I am only glad that he could find his own way of the guilt that he was feeling. Ned Carter didn't want or need my prayers. Well, he's certainly not a Christian, Clara exploded. She pushed herself up from the chair and started to the bedroom. She stopped with her hand on the doorknob and added, Why you wasted your time, Philip? I don't understand. If you weren't going to make Christians out of them, you should not have gone over there. She stepped into the bedroom before Philip could answer and stood with her back against the door. The dimness of the room, with only the faint night light in the wall socket, was a comfort after the harsh lights of the dining room. She would undress and she would pray, silently. Must not wake little Matt in his sleeping bag beside the bed, but she would pray. Pray hard for Philip. He was going to need her prayers. She could see that. She wasn't going to pray for Wilma or the girl, but Philip needs her prayers. Cerise heard the door to the Matt's room close and tiptoed back to her bed. If she was going to bed, Mommy and Daddy would go to bed too, and she wouldn't hear anything anymore. Eddie Carter had been punished. Oh boy! She sat cross-legged on the bed and smiled. It was more than she had asked God to do, but God must know best. If God had only made Mr. Carter mad at Eddie, Eddie might have figured out who put the shell in the gun. Eddie wasn't always dumb. God really know how to fix things. She stretched out on the bed and pulled the sheet up first, and then one blanket at a time, and lay open in the darkness. It wasn't right for her to bawl out to Daddy Phil. Daddy Phil wasn't her little boy anymore. Maybe she should ask God to make Clara Thayer sorry. Better not. She remembered how much Daddy Phil smiled whenever she gave him a check. She always said, remember, it's for the church. But it made Daddy Phil happy. Better wait and see. See what was in the big box under the tree. The box would be the first present she opened. It was the biggest present she ever had bought. Usually she only gave Cerise a Bible. Matt got good presents. Matt got a whole toy farm from Grandma Thayer last year. This package was too big to be a Bible, and anyway, she had enough Bibles. She didn't need another one. It was nice to know God was listening to her. Daddy Phil was right. If you prayed hard enough, you did get your prayers answered. The secret was how to pray hard enough. She knew that she had to close her eyes so hard she could hear funny noises in her ears, and then she had to say the prayer over and over again. Her hair fell over her face and she rolled over on her side. She pulled her fingers through the long strands. She didn't want pigtails anymore. They are too babyish. She yawned. Tomorrow, she would ask Mother to let her have it cut. Maybe a ponytail. It wouldn't be as bad as the braids. If Mother didn't agree, she would talk to Daddy Phil. If she coaxed hard enough, Daddy Phil would let her get rid of the pigtails, especially if she sat in his lap. She smiled to herself. Daddy Phil always got red in the face when she sat in his lap and wiggled against him. That's when she would say, yes, you could get the hair cut. She yawned again and closed her eyes. Remembered she had not said her prayers and decided that it wasn't necessary. God was there. When she prayed hard enough, He listened. Mommy, it's morning, get up! The sound of Matt's excitement shook Wilma awake. He was hopping up and down beside the bed as frantically as if he had to go to the bathroom. But why did the kids have to get up so early on Christmas morning? Okay, son, we're getting up, Phil grumbled and answered from his side of the bed. His face was still buried in the depth of the pillow, and the sound was muffled. But Matt grinned in understanding and scurried out of the door. Phil, are you going to tell the children about Eddie Carter? Phil rolled himself into a sitting position and rubbed at the back of his neck. Finally, he reached for his robe and shook his head. Not unless they ask. I'll have to tell them eventually, but why spoil their Christmas? He adjusted the belt and flipped over one end, pulling it tight. Come on, the kids are probably sitting under the tree waiting. The tree lights glistened on Cerie's blonde hair. It cascaded over her shoulders and reflected pinpoints of green dots of blue. When she moved, the hair shimmered softly and swirled about her face. We are all here, Cerise said. Looked up at Phil with a question in his eyes. Can we start opening the packages now? At his nod, Cerise reached under the tree and grabbed the box from Clara Thayer. She handed Matt his white tissue wrapped gift and proceeded to ignore everyone, tearing at the paper with determination. Wilma caught her breath. The girl's hands reached into the middle of the tissue paper. Cerise's eyes had narrowed into slits. The mouth. Cerise wasn't smiling. What on earth had Clara Thayer given her? Let us all see, Cerise. She leaned forward. Leaned forward, trying to see over Cerise's shoulder. The girl's back was too stiff. Wherever Clara had chosen, it wasn't right. Thank you. Cerise's voice sounded polite, but not enthusiastic. It would seem polite voice she used when she talked to the women at the church. Wilma glanced at Clara Thayer, hoping Clara wasn't offended. Clara was smiling proudly, sitting with her chin tilted upward, viewing the scene before her as if she was going to lift her hand and bless the subjects. Thank God, Wilma thought. Clara was unaware of the disgust in Cerise's manner, of the distaste shown in the rigid set of Cerise's jaw. I thought the doll's hair looked like yours. Clara nodded. Her gaze swept over Cerise and went to Phil. Don't you think so, Philip? Let's see it. He shifted in his chair and stifled a yawn. Cerise held the doll up in the air. It was true. The doll's long blonde hair hung in the same delicate straightness, catching the tree lights with the identical reflections. But a doll for Cerise? Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Please take a seat. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let us see it. But a doll for Cerise? Clara couldn't understand about the girls if she brought a doll for a girl who was already begging to wear makeup. Wilma chewed at her thumb, hoping Cerise would at least continue to be polite about it. Cerise's glance swung from the doll to her mother with an exasperated glint in her green eyes. Then, she laid the doll back in the box and shoved tissue paper over the top of it. Open mine, Cerise. Matt grabbed a lumpy, misshapen package from the stack and pushed it into her hands. I wrapped it myself, he said proudly. There were almost more sticker than paper. Matt's attempt to tie a bow had resulted in a long stream of red ribbon dangling from both ends of the package. To Wilma's relief, Cerise giggled. The doll was forgotten. The rest of the packages were doled out. The pile of wrappings, hastily torn from the boxes, grew into a ragged mountain of paper. By the time they progressed from a quick breakfast of orange juice and toast through the turkey and trimmings dinner, Wilma's tension headache had built into a pulsating throb in both temples. This was the worst Christmas of her life. At least, since she had married Phil, she couldn't count her childhood in foster homes with nothing but a welfare cast-off, and most of the problems had been created by Clara Thayer. Wilma scraped the leftover sweet potatoes into a plastic bowl and wished she could shove one right down Clara's throat. Clara had insisted on adding her own words of prayer after Phil said grace. She managed to bring up Kathleen with the word of prayer for the absent member of the Thayer family. That's when the headache began to start. as a dull feeling behind her eyes. By the time Clara progressed to comforting the Carters on their loss of their son, Wilma felt tears running down her cheeks. If Phil had not reached out for her hand, she would have broken into sobs. Instead, the ache spread to her temples. Matt was the first to lift his head with the question, "What happened to Carter's son? Does she mean Eddie?" Phil nodded and frowned at his mother. "Yes, son, there was an accident last night." He cleared his throat and, after a deep breath, said, "It's not exactly time to talk about it, but Eddie was killed." He ran out of words and breath at the same time. "You mean before he opened his presents?" Matt's voice trembled. He looked from Phil to his mother, eyes wide, expecting an answer. Phil swallowed and finally nodded silently. "Who opened his presents?" Matt asked. "I don't know." Phil sighed. "We'll figure that out later, son. Shall we eat?" His gaze moved from Matt to Cerise. Cerise looked across the table at Matt. She shrugged, and her eyebrows went up. Wilma bit her lower lip. Cerise must have sneaked an eyebrow pencil into her room and applied it herself. "I'm sorry, Cerise," Phil said. I was going to tell you later after we had our Christmas." The indifference in Cerise's eyes amazed Wilma. The girl calmly reached out to the cranberries and scooped a huge helping out onto her plate. "It's okay, Daddy Phil," she said coolly. "God does things his own way." Wilma passed the dish on to Phil and clutched the napkin in her lap. "Not more of that God's will stuff." The headache was beginning to make her nauseated, and Clara Thea's smirking approval of Cerise's comment wasn't helping any. From Cerise's nonchalant comment on, the entire dinner became a fog, and now Wilma scraped at the roaster pan, taking out her frustration on the singed dressing stuck to the edges. At least Clara Thea was getting into her car. Maybe the headache would go away. "Mother, why did she get me a doll?" Cerise wandered into the kitchen and plucked a slice of turkey from the platter. "I'm not a little girl anymore." "You're not grown up either," Wilma snapped. "And you do something with your hair. If you come in here with it dangling, you will have hair all over the food." "But mother, braids are for babies." "Then put it into a ponytail. But do something." "Can I get it cut?" "You heard Phil. He wants it long. Although it sounds dangerous to me. Lighting candles with that long hair, you might catch it on fire." Cerise stuck one finger into the dressing and scooped up a quick taste. "But I don't want pigtails anymore." Wilma looked at the fixed set of Cerise's jaw and groaned. She listened to enough arguments for one day. First, it was Clara being upset over the plans for Eugene. She was positive Phil belonged in the small church. Then Cerise wanted her hair cut and Phil opposed the idea. The dinner had turned into a disaster, and Cerise wasn't going to give up. "Cerise, no more munching." Wilma grabbed the platter of sliced turkey and reached for the roll of aluminium foil. "Can we taper this? Maybe we can taper the sides of your hair." "Taper it?" Cerise's eyes opened with excitement. "You mean short on the sides and then long at the back?" "I'll talk to Phil." She stopped and rubbed at her forehead. "In the meantime, tie it back or something." She listened to the sound of Clara Thea's car starting, the motor idling. Cerise's footsteps retreated. The headache was getting worse. The nausea was coming back. Wilma's eyes felt as if they were about to pop out of their sockets. It wasn't only the argument. Part of it was her reluctant admission that Clara Thea might be right. Moving to Eugene might be a mistake. She reached for the cold water tap and splashed on her temple. This man, this Becker, Phil said that man had, how did I put it? Old-fashioned values, family and home. They were important. Phil's family. He wanted to meet Phil's family. She turned the water off and daubed at her forehead with a towel. Fear. That was the feeling in her stomach. It wasn't the headache making her nausea approaching. It was the fear of Eugene. guys, that is indeed the end of chapter 5. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. How are you guys doing? Chapter 5 was incredibly long. Hey, Spooty! Hey! Oh, a lot of you are here today. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Seriously, seriously. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, it's quite a difficult book to read. It's so fucked up. But it's okay. I'm used to really fucked up books. Thank you, thank you. How's everyone doing today? It's Monday. It's the first week of. Thank you. Oh, thank you. It's the first week of December, and what's it? Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I feel like my reading got worse. I rushed the words too much, and I need to read slower. I'm terrible. I feel like I used to be better. Oh, thank you. Oh my god. Thank you for waking up early to catch this. Thank you so much. It's I do 11 a.m. GMT plus 8. But the last Friday I woke up late. I woke up at 11:15 or something. Oh my god. Seriously. Thank you so much, Arun. Do you still run your place as a cafe? I'm like trying like wait, but if I need to stop it. And oh wow. People definitely get like very busy after noon. Sometimes I thought maybe I should change my timing to a bit later, but I also don't really want to eat my lunch too late. Forest Crow magical delivery service open. Okay. You haven't opened in a month? You taking a break? Let me know. You have a room launch in your FC house, Ando? Okay, I'll go take a look later. Oh, almost 2 months. Well, I took a very long break too, like a really long break. Between August to November, I didn't really stream at all. Due to IRL issues and stuff. Um, yeah. Aww. Yeah, Arum. You should open it again. Then we'll all go hang out there. Chiba Kimoto. Redesign by oh, Ando, you're so dedicated. I wanted to redesign my basement. Read again? Okay, I'll do read again. Like this. to turn my basement into like a proper library for people to hang out and like G-post and everything. Like basically move away my personal desk and all that. But I'm so lazy. I mean, look at my MSQ, bruh. I think I think I want to stream my MSQ. I don't know, maybe today? I'm not sure. Maybe today? I think today I'm quite free afternoon, after lunch. Hi everyone in my viewers list. Just so you know, I still have like, you know, read a love quote, read a poem, read a tarot card, um, redemption for my Banuna points. Still, everything's still available. So too bright to read. That is a very good looking book. What is it? Ultimate Dreadworm. I usually like very very simple books. A digital book. LCD screen. And a Kindle. I really want to sit down like one day and do all the MSQ. Maybe later. I'll see how. Because I do my MSQ with my partner Zapok. So I mean I guess I can celebrate, like, because I finally whatchamacallit, hit 130 followers. And now I have to change it, right? I need to change it to 140. Starting amount 130. And 31. Okay, wait, 31. I don't know what to say. Like, follow me for candies. Eh? Eh? Oh, eh. I used to do follow me for Ara Ara. That was during my whatchamacallit? During my raiding days. Make sure. Okay, guys. The next reading on this coming Wednesday is going to be the last one for this book. Let me double check. Yep. Yeah. So it'll be the last chapter, chapter 6.
I have a Twitter. Yes, I do. It is Nudibles. I do. Okay, you can use that. So you can tell your friends. Like I think I'm the only. I don't know. You guys tell me if I'm wrong. Okay. I think I'm the only Twitch no, I hate to say the word streamer. The only Twitch streamer who stream um book reading content like this. Uh, it's very boring, but some people enjoy it, like Arum and Isabel and you, Chipao. Um, and the rest in the rest of the viewers in my chat right now, I don't know who they are. Kin Komodo, are you still here? Kin Komodo, I think Kin Komodo. I was about to ask Kin Komodo like if your server is in the US or something. If it's in like Thornberry or something, we we can probably I can probably help you out with your MSQ and stuff. It's really fun. I always like it. Um, when I help like people who are like doing the old content as if they are new and see their reactions. I really love it. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Chipao. It's a nice change of pace. Yeah. I think like I had like um thoughts about like making a macro that like reads out um the chapters, but it's just impossible to write the entire book into a macro, you know what I mean. So it's just impossible for me to do. So I'm sticking with like just reading it off and ask people to come into my Twitch channel to listen, basically. Yeah. I hope you guys like it. Yeah, too much work, right? Like I was thinking, it's like, should I write down everything on macro and just like, then it will be like a performance in game for people who cannot like open two screen up for game and also the Twitch site. Um, yeah, I hope that you guys don't mind. This is a good. This chapter has a very good pace. I should have done like one chapter per reading because the previous reading was really long. But then I don't know, like this book is like I wouldn't say it's a perfect book, right? Because it's like a book written by an author, like a first time author, or I don't know if this author I know that she has no other books, she only has this book. It could be a pseudonym of another more famous writer, we don't know. But yeah, it's definitely not the best written book, but I like the story a lot. And it's definitely one book that made me like get super interested in reading books when I was a teenager. And after this, we are going to go back to our usual Asian writer. Uh, please come back on Wednesday. Please come back on Wednesday, because if there are like a lot of you on Wednesday when I finish this book, I might do a poll for you guys to choose which is the next book that I'm going to read. If not, if there's not a lot of you here, then I will just choose a book that I want to read for the next one. I might go back to Natsume Soseki actually. Thank you. Yes. On Wednesday, 11 a.m. GMT plus 8. Yeah, I will have to. I don't know. I'll have to choose between. I need to look for a book. I don't know. This is the first time I read something from a Western writer. If you check out my previous VODs, they are all Asian writers. And I'm always very proud of that. I think it's nice to put some attention on Asian writers because they can be really good.
writers too. The only problem would be the translation. Sometimes some translation just doesn't work very well. For example, right, I really like Confession by Kanai Minato, but Penance by Kanai Minato, I didn't like it as much. I feel like there's something off with the translation, so I didn't enjoy it as much, I would say. Yeah, I definitely enjoy Confession a lot more. If you guys this is the first time you guys come to my channel, after I end my stream later, please check out my readings for Kanai Minato's Confession. It's an amazing book. I would say either you read the book or you listen to my reading or you watch the movie.
Have you ever had a dream that you could don't do skid you don't do skid you want don't do skid.
Yes, I do have a dream. Yes, watch the. Don't Google anything about it. That's my only like don't Google, don't search anything about Confession before watching the movie or before reading the book or before listening to me read the book. But Kanai Minato's Confession is one of my proudest reading so far. I'm very proud of my reading for Kanai Minato's Confession. I really like my reading on that one. I really do. Would definitely appreciate if you guys would like to like watch the VOD for it and all that. But I would highly recommend you to watch the movie. Serious, the movie is so good. Confession, 2010. It's made in 2010. Seriously, 12 years ago. Alright. Ah, really? It's so good. I'm not saying that it's good because I'm good at reading it. I'm just saying that the story is like seriously compelling. Like you don't want to stop listening or you don't want to stop reading it. Like it's the kind of book that you thought that okay, I'm gonna read 2 chapters of this and then put it down, but no, you can't because it's just so good. So you just kept reading it, and it's so good, so good. The movie is so perfect as well. Penance, I don't. It's definitely not my favorite. I didn't like it as much, and my reading was kind of flumpy. I feel because I just got back from my hiatus and I was reading badly. I think I was reading quite bad on that one. I need to like practice better reading. Why are there 8 of you all in here? Can you guys raise your hands in the chat? All 8 of you. Who are you? Why are you guys here? Who is here? Gatsby ran away after a while. Gatsby is always busy with raiding. I really want to raid again, but I think I want to like focus on getting all my MSQ done first. Ah, Spooty! Spooty. Wow. You know, Spooty, you're the only one from your old FC that's still talking to me now. I mean, you're not really talking to me, but you're still following my remember how I always go to your old FC and yeah, and other things happen too. So you're the only one from that FC who is talking to me, still hanging out with me, and I really thank you for that. I'm thankful to all of you who are here, whoever is in my is in front of me in game. Whoever is in my chat listening to me talk nonsense, I hope that you guys can stay with me for a long time, as long as I'm doing this thing. I don't know when will I stop again. You know, sometimes real life catch up and I get super busy with IRL stuff that I had to like go on a hiatus for a long time. But I'm very glad that all of you are still here with me, listening to me read. Reading is definitely one thing that I really like the most in my life, and I really appreciate it that you guys constantly pay attention to what I'm doing and constantly giving me a chance to, I don't know, prosper in this realm. In the is it really your first venue? That's weird. Didn't you think that this venue is weird? I mean, like, you know, the whole point about like come here but switch on my Twitch to listen to me read. I used to do this for free. I mean, I'm still doing it for free, not that I'm earning much. I can't cash out from my it's been like almost like more than 6 months, but I still can't cash out from my Twitch yet, like, just to tell you the truth. So I don't really make money out of this, but I used to do this for free, like in a server that I was in, but things didn't turn out very well with a group of people. A lot of shit happened, and then the end, my manager, my manager at the end, encouraged me to make this VTuber character thing, and then read on Twitch instead, because she knows how much I miss doing this. You know, I never been to like a club setting in this game where they pull you to stream to their stream for their music. Maybe you guys can bring me there one day. Guys, question. So, should I play Final Fantasy 8 and stream it, or should I play Final Fantasy, I'm thinking 9? Okay, you know what? It's useless. I don't want to ask you guys, because I'll go. I already know what I want to do. Okay, maybe the question is, if I stream Final Fantasy 8, will you guys be interested in watching? Arum, then it will be spoiler for you, right? If you never played them. I wanted to stream 8. I'm wondering if you guys will be interested in like backseating me. Backseat gaming me. I don't mind it. And then I will like tell you stories of my childhood when I played 8. 9, yeah, I don't know much about 9 either. 9 will definitely be like a very new one for me. Yeah. I'm thinking 8. Definitely thinking about 8. Okay, let me set up. I don't know. Let me think of something on a day to set up a day that I will stream. What time would you guys be interested for me to stream? Like 2 o'clock? Is 2 o'clock okay? 2 o'clock GMT plus 8 okay for you guys? Cause I feel like Every time I start my stream at 11 a.m. GMT plus 8, there isn't much people. But I was thinking, like, I don't know. Jesus Christ. You play a lot, and I didn't even play that much. I played 6 a little bit and I haven't finished it. I never played 10, 10 2, not yet. I really want to play 12. We'll probably play 12 on stream. I hate 13 story. I watch my partner play it and I hate it, so I won't play it. Yeah. But when I do my MSQ, right, guys? I actually will stream when I do my MSQ. I actually will stream when I do my MSQ. That's what I'm thinking of doing today. Actually, I'm not sure. I need to ask my partner because I do my streams with my, I do my uh, I do my MSQ with my partner. 5 was your first. Wow. I have 4 on my 3DS. Yeah, 10 is so good. Yeah, everyone says 10 is good. Oh, I don't know. I don't like the entire idea of 15. It's too modern for me, and also I don't like I don't like that type. Like, I know it sounds stupid because it's basically almost like 8, right? Like, future-ish, but not really. You get what I mean? Like 15 is kind of similar to 8 if you think about it, right? It's like futuristic, but not that, like there's still some, like, magic and stuff going on. But I really like 8. Um, but 15, right? Yes, yes, yes. Arum, you're right. Right, yeah, you're right. You cannot connect with the characters. And I hate the fact that there are no female characters that you can play. I really hate that. Really, really hate that. Because I would set, like in 8, right, you can set 2 teams. And it's almost a must that I will put, like, yeah, it's too westernized. Yeah. Yeah. That's why I'm, like, more excited for 16. But I would say that, yeah, I'll probably play 8. I'll buy the I'll buy the remastered on the 8, and then I'll play 8 and I'll stream it. But I'll probably I need to be I need to be more, I don't know, serious about my streaming schedule. Because, like, if you see my streaming schedule, I have Yakuza 6 on Saturdays, but I never stream it. I only stream Yakuza 6 like 3 times. Damn, son. Ando. Crazy. No. No. No, I'm a PC gamer and I'll die a PC gamer. Even if I have to wait for 5 years for 16 to come out on PC, I will still wait for it to come out on PC. I'm too lazy. Like, I'm just not a console person, I guess. Also, the fact that I can't afford a console. Seriously though, guys. So you guys are probably more interested in me, like, streaming on weekdays, right, guys? Weekdays or weekend? Weekend, at least you guys go out. You guys are actually human being. I'm speaking as if I'm not a human being. I know. What do you guys think? it's okay, I guess. Totally fine. Totally fine. Don't know what's happening. Sorry, I'm not checking shit. Ah, one moment, please. Hello. Oh wait. Oh, you're not okay. Ah, I wasn't okay. I asked you guys to do it, and then I don't. Yeah. I go get my card. Why? Why didn't it? Why didn't I hear anything about it? Okay, hang on. I'll get my cards. Ah! Da-da-da-da-da-da. So, you're asking for okay, is it card of the day or do you have a question? Please let me know. Do you have a question or is it a card of the day? Well, I haven't done this. I haven't done this on stream for a long time. God. Okay. How many times do you want me to shuffle your cards? What is my instruction for? Yeah. Tell me how many times you want to shuffle and pick from the top or pick from the 5%. It's your lucky number percent. Okay, I'll shuffle 5 times. And do you want me to pick it from the top of the deck or do you want me to spread it out and then pick intuitively? Okay, I'll shuffle, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do I take the card on top or do I spread it out and then pick intuitively? Please let me know. Pick from the middle. Yeah, I'll pick from the middle. Middle. Okay. I picked for you from the middle already, yeah? Your card of the day is the Knight of Wands. The Knight of Wands. Wands. Creativity. Enthusiasm as inspiration, self-expression, adventure. Knight of Wands. Let's go. Okay, the Knight of Wands. The keywords is adventure, travel, excitement, movement, and restlessness. Today you'll be a bit busy, I think. You have a lot to do today, probably. Um, when the Knight of Wands appears, he brings good news. You might get a good news coming in today. Sometimes he represents a trip or relocation. Some sort of movement or activity is afoot of a happy kind. If the knight represents a real person, he's a good-natured and likable chap, generous of spirit, idealistic, a loyal friend. So it could be a friend who's gonna hang out with you today, or it's yourself, or that there's just some kind of a good news, and there'll be some kind of, you'll be a bit busy moving around today, probably. I'm not sure. In reading about money, he suggests a fortunate opportunity is on the horizon, and or a financial change is coming. Gotta get that internship money. You may receive money unexpectedly, or the card advises you to take a financial risk. In a reading about work, the knight may represent a promotion or transfer to another locale or company. He can also point to a business trip in the near future. If you ask about love, this knight indicates an enthusiastic and enjoyable affair, but don't expect it to last long. He can also have fun, but realize your partner is free spirit who doesn't like commitments. Oh my god. But overall, movements. Good news is coming today. I hope it's good news coming to you today, okay? but you can have fun though. No, it's okay. You can have fun. Have fun, but that person just doesn't want to be committed lah. But it's okay. Oh my god, my accent just came out of nowhere. Yeah, having fun is what matters. Yes, I think. Okay. This is what I learned in my. I'm fucking old as hell. Okay, I'm like ancient, right? This is what I'm going to tell you guys. You younglings, you young people. Okay. Don't focus on the future. Don't. It's never worth it to focus on the future. Don't focus on the future. Focus on the now. If right now you are feeling like shit, it's fine. Just feel like shit. Cry it out. Punch a wall. I don't know. Go play a game that makes you feel good at the moment to release your stress. The stuff that makes you feel shitty right now, right? But don't focus on like what if. Don't focus on the what if. Like what if in the future I'm this, what if in the future I'm that. You know? If you happen to have like a partner who you enjoy to spend your time with, just focus on the time you enjoy with them. Don't focus on what's gonna happen after this. Like, I'm so happy with this person, but what happens after this? What happens next year? What happens next week? What happens in the next 5 years? Don't think about that. It's pointless to think about that. It's a waste of time to think about that. So just focus on what's good right now. And you can't if you are having a shitty time right now, still try your best to find the good in the shitty time, because I don't believe in like black and white. Like when you're having a black time, right? It's never going to be just blackness or darkness, right? You will find a little crevice of like light in the darkness that you can enjoy. Like, let's say I'm having a shitty time right now, my work is shit, or my relationship is shit, or everything is shit, but you know what? Oh, my cat is around, and I can cuddle my cat, because my cat, even though he doesn't understand what's going on with my life, but he's there for me, and that's all that matters, right? So you just focus on the good thing. Always try to find the good things to focus on, because it's never worth it to like dwell in the darkness, dwell in the misery. Like I've been having a problem with this friend of mine in real life. It's really drained my energy a lot because she's just like, if you see her right walking close to you, you know how sometimes like when you're meeting a friend, right, and when you see your friend, it's like, ah, a ball of like sunshine walking towards you, and you're like so happy to see them, and you just want to hug them, and then ask them, how's it been, hey, like that kind of happiness that you are like reaching out to. This friend of mine, whenever I see her, it's a ball of gloom, and it's just darkness. Like she brings the fucking thunderstorm cloud with her. And I look at her the way she walked towards me, and I just feel like, oh my god, what am I gonna deal with today? Don't be that person, guys. Don't be that the gloomy cloud that brings dark energy to everyone. Don't do that, bruh. Don't. If you want to be miserable, if you want to stay miserable, if you want to dwell and swim in your pool of misery, please do it at home. don't don't bring it outside and spread to other people. They don't deserve it. They don't deserve you draining their energy. Don't do it. it's don't do it to other people. It's hell, especially if the other person is depressed as fuck, and all you do is just making their energy go lower and lower and lower and lower. Yeah. Sorry, I went on a rant. I don't I don't mean to rant. My apologies. My apologies. But just remember, don't be an energy vampire. Yeah, that's good. I'm not an optimist. I'm a pessimist. But I will not. I promise myself that I will not drag other people down with my pessimism, because it's not fair to those people. You always have to remember that yes, it's okay to vent, it's okay to complain, it's okay to whine about shit to your friends, but you have to do it to the right people. There are some people who are like very like therapists, like they will, like, they will encourage you, they will give you good advice, and all that, and you will feel better after venting to them. But if you vent to a person who is like very depressed, and that's just gonna further drain their energy. Especially if, let's say, for example, if this person who is like very, if your friend is very depressed, and then you go on to vent about your life to them, and then but they still feel obligated, or they feel like, I should give this person, my friend, a good advice, so they give you advice, and then you said, no, I don't need your advice, there's nothing can be done with my shitty life, I'm just gonna give up. Please don't do that to your friend. Seriously, don't do that to your friend. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to them. They are not there to bear the burden of your life. They are there to help you, to support you. They will give you advice, but if you like straight up deny their help, deny, I don't know how to explain this, because it's like very close to my soul. Just if they straight up tell you that I cannot help you because I am not a therapist, you should be talking about these things to your therapist, then you should understand that you should be seeing a therapist and talking about all these things that bothers you to a therapist, and not to a friend, because a friend you can vent to, it's okay, but if you expect your friend to like help you in your mental health, that is not good. That is not fair to them, because they don't have the training for that. They can't be your free therapist. You gotta go pay for it, no matter what it is. don't, don't make your friend feel like shit. Basically what all I want to say is, don't make your friend feel like shit. Don't make your friend feel like, yeah, exactly. Seek professional for your mental health, because nobody can. The, no, what I always say to people is that you owe it to yourself to help yourself. Uh, Nobody else can help you if you don't help yourself. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and yeah, you actually, that is not a bad thing. You remind yourself, it do be like that. It's basically acceptance of the situation, but you accepted it, and then you move on. You don't stay in it, right? Like, if you have in a bad situation and you think to yourself, this sucks, and then the next thing you think is that, okay, never mind, life do be like that, it do be like that. You accept it, then you move on. Don't dwell, never dwell, because when you start dwelling in your misery, you spiral, and then you become a very difficult person for other people to hang out around you with, because every time people talk to you, you just talk about how miserable your life is, and it's so unfair. It's so unfair to your friends. They're not there to be your therapist. If your friend straight up said that you need a therapy, then you should go see a therapy. If that's a good friend of yours, and you know that this friend of yours really care about you, then yeah, go ahead and listen to them. And like I said, you owe it to yourself to help yourself. You don't owe it to anyone. You don't owe it to your friend. You don't owe it to your family. You don't owe it to your boyfriend or your girlfriend. You don't owe it to your cat. You don't owe it to your dog. You owe it to yourself to go get yourself checked up and find a place where you can heal, or learn how to heal. Learn how to heal. That's where you learn. Therapy is where you learn how to heal. Anyways, I've babbled on a lot. Somehow you guys are still here listening to me babbling. I'm not sure what I said helped you guys or not. I don't know at all. But life is not that bad. I say that even though I don't believe in it, but I say it to try to convince myself that life is not that bad. Life is, it can be really shitty. It can give you a lot of anxiety. It can make you feel like you are breaking down. But life is not that bad. Always remember that it's not that bad. It's really not that bad. We just need to remind ourselves that every time we feel like shit, that life is not that bad. We are okay, and we will be better. We'll be okay now, and then we'll be better in the future. And I just made things very sappy. It's okay. I'll play you guys a nice song and I'll say goodbye, okay? Um,
Have you ever had a dream that you could don't you want don't you
sorry for being mopey. at the end of my stream. Thank you so much for you guys for staying here with me for the entire 3 hours and 12 minutes stream. I'll see you guys on this coming Wednesday to end this book, and then we will start a new one on Friday. I'll decide with you all on Wednesday. Maybe we'll do a little vote thing. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, I'll tell you guys what's coming up on Friday, on Wednesday. Thank you for the follows today. Isabel Taira, Jean Galahad. Thank you so much for the follows. I finally hit 130 followers, and let's look forward to 140. Yes, let's do it. I'll see you guys on this coming Friday, Wednesday at 11 a.m. GMT plus 8. I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Bye bye. Go eat your lunch. Have fun. And I'll see you. Pew.